Hello, friends, and welcome to an exciting episode of Snap Judgments Podcast. We are joined today by some of Marvel Snap's best human beings and the best player in the game. So before we go any further, I'm Aaron Glazer of the podcast, and we are joined today by our friend and yours, Savage Yeti Gaming. How you doing, Yeti?
I'm good. Happy to be Roy's replacement for the day.
Oh, you're going to do so much better than he would. We are also, I'm not Roy. I'm not a good Roy. Yeti, how could our viewers find you?
I have a YouTube channel. I'm sure if you guys watch the podcast, I've been around. Savage Yeti Gaming -- Marvel Snap on YouTube. I have a Twitter. You'll find it all. Just Savage Yeti Gaming.
Cool. We are also joined by our very sick friend, the man who says his name is Peaceful but believes in nothing but war. How you doing, PeacefulSea?
Nothing but war. Wow, I'm a lot better right now than I was probably like 36 hours ago. I almost messaged you yesterday and was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it this week, but things have turned around. I've slept like something like 40 hours in the last 2 days, so things are looking up.
Literally looking awake. Well, how can our friends find you, Peaceful?
Well, you can find me on twitch.tv/PeacefulSea as I would stream 6, sometimes 7 days a week, but usually 6 days a week on there. And then you can find me on YouTube at PeacefulSea.
I'm going to say
PeacefulSea Snap.
Ooh, PeacefulSea Snap on YouTube. Yeah, I'm going to say this just because I think it's true. If you like my content on YouTube, I think Peaceful's is the single player who's most similar to mine.
Oh.
We also have the one and only, the best player in Marvel Snap, bar none. No one yells at me about it when I say it anymore. Everyone just kind of goes, yeah, we know. It's Lamby. How you doing, Lamby?
Hey, yo, what's up, man? Glad to be back. Always glad to film this with you guys. I always have so much fun.
Thanks. Glad to have you. We love having you on. And if anyone doesn't know how to find you because they've lived under a rock and missed the Conquerors event, how could they do so?
Right, you can find me on x.com/LambySeriesGG. You can also find me streaming on Twitch at twitch.tv/LambySeriesTV, usually streaming around like 9 a.m. EST approximately. And I also have a YouTube channel. Wait, what's my handle? Lamby Series Gaming on YouTube. Yes.
I was going to say, I know what it is.
So. Yeah, Peaceful definitely knows. This is my latest platform. So yeah, I'm still trying to remember my username, but anyway, that's about it for now. Yeah.
Hey, and do you and Peaceful do anything together that we might want to plug?
Yeah. So we have this segment called Next Level Snap. You guys should really check it out because it's basically where me and Peaceful go through some very important like topics on how to get good in Marvel Snap, like simple things like when to snap, how to manage tilt, stuff like that. It's like so we have like 7-8 episodes up right now. You can just go check it out. It's not like the most colorful and like beautiful thing ever, but like in terms of like getting you to be better at the game, it's a very important resource, and sometimes I will rewatch the videos myself and I also learn from them.
I forgot I said that. So I fully plan to plagiarize you guys. I do Marvel Snap pro tips in my videos, and I had like a list of 60 and I'm almost out. So I'm like, how do I get more pro tips? Oh wait, my friends have this video that I can just take.
That's a good place to look.
It's seriously where I'm going to look. I'm not even kidding. I was getting nervous about it. I was like, wait, what am I talking about? All right. So friends, if you'd like to... go for it, Ed.
That tilt video is really good. Mm-hmm. I think I listened to it twice. So go listen to it.
Nice. I appreciate it.
I don't tilt. I have so many flaws, but I don't tilt.
I hate you.
I tilt for like 0.2 seconds, like if I lose a close game. So the highest stake card game I ever played, I lost on a 50-50 on the last turn. And I got up, I went fuck, and then I went and gave my opponent a hug and rubbed his head and wished him luck, and it was gone. It was just gone.
It's
like,
great.
yeah, I don't know why. My brain just doesn't like I'm the least competitive person in the world, which is probably why. Like, I like winning, but I don't actually care if I win.
I'm going on tilt listening to you tell me that.
I'm sorry.
It's making me feel like I'm doing something wrong in my life, but that's great. I'm happy for you.
I'm sorry.
Let's go ahead and move on. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. So moving on, if you would like to engage with us in many, many other ways, I'm going to go over a couple really quick ones. You can find us on Twitter at SnapJudgeCast. You can find us on our own YouTube at Snap Judgments Pod. double check that. I post daily videos there. We're on the Marvel Snap Zone Discord. If you're watching this on the Marvel Snap Zone YouTube, we're also on every podcatcher. If you're listening to this on a podcatcher, check the Marvel Snap Zone YouTube. There's a lovely slideshow. And we have a brand new Patreon. I'm not going to give you a whole advertising spiel, but the link will be in the show description. And that's that. Let's get to the episode because today is super packed. We're going to start with Selene. Selene is a 1/-1, Series 5, 6,000 tokens. On reveal, afflict the lowest power card in each player's hand with -3 power. What do you think of her so far, Sleepy Peaceful?
Well, it's funny to me how much a couple weeks can change, because I would have thought before Black Widow got changed to a 3 cost that this was going to be one of the most obnoxious cards in the game, just because in partnership, like on turn 3, being able to play Black Widow into this was just going to be really toxic. And her, like Black Widow going to 3, I think has really balanced her out. I think she's a much more fair card now. She's not as easily bounced, and you can't play her as easily along with Selene, which makes this card a lot worse in my mind. I know a lot of people have told me that it's amazing in Galactus. I haven't actually tried that out myself yet, but I'm not super impressed. I think this card is one of those cards that's great when everything works out perfectly and really bad every other time, and that's just not a good card. So,
Yeti?
I mean, I like it. I don't think it's super necessary to, spend your tokens on or anything. But if you like playing junk, you like playing Galactus, it does its job in those decks. So I'm happy with it. I like where it landed. It's not super annoying. The Black Widow combo is not really. I mean, you can play it on 4, but it's not as bad as it would have been. So.
Lamby?
Right, so this card's quite interesting. Personally, when I saw the card, I never once thought it was gonna be good, which is quite interesting because I did think Annihilus was good. I did think like the whole Annihilus Sentry junk thing with Hood was gonna be good. But this one, my issue with this card is that there are some cards in the game that are just not good to draw on turn 6. That's one, right? This is like the worst card to draw on turn 6 ever because zero use case, right? And secondly, it's like this card needs to support a very particular archetype, and that particular archetype probably runs better with like a different 12 card in the slot currently. So I've played a bit around with it with the card just for science, right? She's very often dead in my hand, and I mean that once in a while you get to hit your opponent's Iron Man, that kind of thing. That feels really good. But I just don't have much to say about her in the sense that she's just very she's just very she was a bit overrated, I feel like when people initially saw her. So definitely not something I would willingly spend 6,000 on. And maybe the meta might be kinder to her in the future. But for now, I think even junk decks don't fully need this card in their deck.
I mean, she's bad, right? Like, junk isn't especially good. We figured out really quickly that Annihilus was freaking phenomenal. I think Annihilus is probably one of the top 10-ish cards in the game. But, Annihilus isn't any good in a junk deck, really, because then you need him or you die, and that's terrible. So Annihilus is good if you can just run Sentry and you have other options like filling the lane, or if you just have Hood, because your downside with Hood is so small, right? And the upside of a demon is huge. Selene, if it doesn't work, is just all downside, and if you play her and then you don't draw Annihilus, or Annihilus gets pigged, or whatever nonsense happens, you just hurt your power for nothing. I don't think she's good, at all. I think she's got use cases, and the use cases is basically, Galactus is bad. If you would like to make Galactus slightly less bad, please feel free. Lamby?
Oh, I just want to add also, though, that, I have been hit by, here and there, once in a while, on the first 48 hours of a release, they go, Selene into, Green Goblin. Okay, that one hurts, but, it's one scenario, right?
Mhm.
If Selene needs Hobgoblin, honestly, you don't feel it as much because it comes so late. But like Selene into a 3-6 Green Goblin, yeah, that hurts a little bit. Obviously, if you're playing a bounce or destroy strategy, then it matters not at all. But yeah, that's just one thing that I guess made me feel like she was okay, she's played, but yeah, that's
or
it. Not
or
great.
if they have Annihilus too, right?
Yeah,
It's just I don't know. I think Annihilus is probably too good as I'm thinking about this. It's just Annihilus is she needs Annihilus to be kind of rare to be good, and Annihilus is very common.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I wonder if she would actually be a playable card if a Nihilist wasn't one of the better overall packages just to put in your deck. Like you can
Mhm.
stick Hood, Sentry and a Nihilist in a deck and run it, and it'd be pretty good. And then you just randomly get to avoid losing to stuff like a -6 Green Goblin, even if they do have it. So yeah, it's I'm happy that she's not too good because she'd be a really obnoxious card to have be really strong. But yeah, she's not good.
Speaking of cards that would be obnoxious to be really strong, but they're not. How do we feel about Shaw? Let's start with Yeti.
I like Shaw was a season pass card, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember that far back. Yeah, I liked it as a season pass card. To be honest, I liked not having a super overpowered card that fits in a specific deck that feels good to play, that's fun to play. I don't think he's meta defining or anything like that, but he has been fun. I did enjoy playing server for a while when he came out, and I like those types of season pass cards. I don't want more Zabus or Lokis.
Lamby?
Yeah, I mean, if every month was like Elsa, Miss Marvel, and Loki, we would have a problem, right? Like, honestly. So I think where Shaw is at was that it released decently strong, but it's only decently strong in a particular shell, and so far Surfer has been the only one that really plays the card. I think it's fine this way. Like, it's fine that this card is just good in like one particular shell, because like it's not strictly like you have to buy the season pass to compete. Shaw's the kind of card that like if you don't have, you are not really that upset. You don't really miss out much. But I do think that he fits very naturally into Surfer, which is a good thing.
And Peaceful?
I mean, I think they covered it pretty well. Shaw's almost maybe the perfect level of a season pass card where it's gonna make a deck better. Like I think the Surfer decks are better now that Shaw's around. It gives you another really high statted 3 cost that can almost solo a lane. It definitely helps that deck a ton, but it doesn't it's not like Elsa was just insane. Like Loki was just insane. I would even say Miss Marvel you can include in that, where it just literally created or like completely revitalized entire decks by itself. That's too much. It gets to the point where it feels like you have to have that card to really compete with the current metagame, and that's just not. I think that's too much. I think this is the perfect level.
I think this is too weak. Like, and not like too weak in Surfer decks, too weak because it only goes in Surfer decks. Like, I don't think it's an exciting card, and I want Season Pass cards to be exciting. I think, like, Nebula was kind of the perfect Season Pass card, where it was good, it went in a lot of decks, but it's not actually broken. Like, they miss on Season Pass cards so much more than they hit. It's completely, like, ridiculous. But I think that, okay. I hate him because his presence killed that Surfer deck I was really enjoying. The one, the Woody deck, I really loved that deck. I thought it was super
that's
fun.
a cool deck.
Yeah, really creative, and Shaw killed it. But, like, beyond that, I just think that, like, what's interesting about Surfer has never been that it's the biggest stats, and Shaw means that Surfer doesn't run tech and just tries to do the big stats. And that's so dull. Like, Surfer was the big stats that ran all the tech cards, and now it's just the big stats that has a bunch of cards that make the big stats go up more. And, like, we already have 1,000 archetypes that do that. I think Shaw is boring design.
That's fair. He's I wouldn't say he's boring. I think I personally like the Surfer decks that he's running. I especially enjoyed the ones that were very all in on like him and Dawkin. But I kind of tend to see your point, because a lot of the times I was much happier curving Dawkin than I was curving Shaw. When it was a deck built around Shaw and Dawkin was just there to give you extra synergy, it was kind of funny. So I get what you're coming from.
Lamby?
Yeah, honestly, I also enjoyed the Woody Surfer a bit more. The one with like subtle small move package, and less about just like pure power. I mean, I like stats, but like I like more variations in my stats. Like there's like movement stuff and all that kind of stuff. Like for the other deck. I think I spent about like maybe 1 day playing this card, and I never touched it ever again.
I got infinite and I was done. That was me.
I play it every weekend for about an hour.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. All right. Blob. And I think since we all know Blob is great, we'll start with Lamby this time. Is Blob the best 6-cost card in the game?
Right. It's probably like the second best 6-cost card in the game. The best one is Doom. I think in terms of like which one is more common in general in the game, Doom cannot be beat, right? Doom is the most commonly played 6-cost in the game, I'm pretty sure. I'm obviously pre-nerf Chavez, but it's not a thing anymore. But yeah, so Blob, when I saw the card, like in the data mines and stuff like that, I was like, okay, this is broke. Like, I don't know. Okay, I wouldn't say I don't know, but like, I guess it took a while for people to catch on to it. But I was calling this card broke for like a month and a half before it got released because this card just flips things in a very special way. It's like a lot of like high level Marvel Snap plays involve like knowing what's your opponent's reach, like how big exactly, and then do you stay, do you retreat based on how big exactly, right? But Blob is not just big. Blob is unknown big, and unknown big is very difficult to play against because, like I said, like if you win by beating a 15 power Blob, but you lose to a 16 power Blob, you know, that kind of thing. So you don't exactly know. You can like do perfect deck tracking and all that, but the thing is you don't know what's exactly in your opponent's hand. So Blob is powerful. I mean, most of the time right now, people just slam Blob on 6 and they just like say, screw it, it's gonna be big enough. But like there are many situations whereby you actually need to know roughly how big the Blob is and like know the range it is in before you can actually stay or leave a game. And this is the power of Blob as well. Obviously, also Blob revived Thanos for the most part, where it's like Thanos has been the best it's been in a while because of the Blob's resurgence in Blob's introduction into the game. So that's one thing I like about Blob. But in general, I just think Blob is one of the best 6-cost released into the game that is not like from the base set. And I'm enjoying the card a lot. I get to play Thanos again.
Yeti?
I've been having a lot of fun with it. I think that Alioth getting nerfed gave Blob a lot of room to be where it's at. I also play it on mobile a lot, and it's really fun to not know how big my Blob is going to be and just roll the dice.
True.
So he's a fun card, and I mean, he's one of the best 6-drops. I'm curious how good he would be if pre-nerf Alioth. I feel like, I don't know.
I think he's better than... So, like, I don't think he's better than base Alioth, right? Like, 6-5 Alioth. I think he's better than the first nerf. I don't think Alioth was that good after that first nerf. Everyone thinks I'm crazy, but, like... So, Alioth has always been a card I never see. I guess I see it more now because, like, I stopped expecting it all the time. But if I just lost to Alioth, I just left. So I was never really seeing the damn card. If I saw it, I was beating it. So, like, I never had that feel bad experience with Alioth, because like if they played it, I knew they had it, every deck had it, right? So like if it was like, oh, Alioth beats me, it was just once I lost to it enough times that I got it through my thick head that like that was going to be a thing that happened. I stopped caring about it. Right? Peaceful?
I was going to say the only 6-drop I think that ever compared to Blob on release was like original Alioth, like at launch 6-5 Alioth. That card was crazy, but I think after they toned his power down a little bit, I think he's fine. Like I think the second nerf to Alioth was completely unnecessary. I think Blob's cool because, like Lammy said, it revived my favorite deck, which is Thanos, but also just because it's just it's a hard to predict card, but it's also like it's not an auto win in a lot of situations, which makes it really fun and interesting. Trying to I just really enjoyed the Blob mirrors. I know a lot of people hate them, but it's like it's kind of funny like getting to the end of the game and having to figure out what the Blob's going to end up being on both sides, or even where to play the Blob. I've like won plenty of games where they blob and I just played to a different lane and kind of and still get the win, and they just have this like 80 power Blob sitting there winning one lane and I won the other two. Like it just creates a lot of fun scenarios in the game that I personally very much enjoy, and it's a very powerful card. I think that's the perfect balance. Like I know a lot of people hate Blob, they think he's too strong. I don't really agree. He dies to two of the most common tech cards that you can run in the game, and it's very easy to like if you lose the Blob, it's kind of like the new Alioth in a way, in my opinion. Where if you lose to with them putting a blob in a very specific lane and you can't win the other 2 lanes, then you just leave. It's like it's just the new Eliath to me. So I like Blob. I think he's great. I think, like Lammy said, other than Doctor Doom, he's probably the best 6-drop in the game. The only one I can think of that even competes was original Eliath.
So,
Yeah, I want to add also that like I said something way back when Blob was like before Blob's launch and like on its launch that aged really really well, and people don't even realize that they're saying it right now, which is amazing. Like I felt very prophetic about this one, which is like I said that one of the most commonly said things on streams right now would be, oh, if they have Blob, I lose.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly, very often people will be like, oh no, if they have Blob, it's too big, I lose. It's happening so much right now, and yeah, because that's the thing about Blob, right? It's so big, but you don't know how big. It's like you mentioned earlier about Eliath as well, Glazer, which is like if you know you lose to Eliath, you leave, right? So you don't get to see it as often. But do you know for sure if you lose to Blob, if it's let's say your opponent has drawn so many cards, or if they are like a Thanos deck and they've played some stones, or if they, you know, that kind of thing. Like you don't exactly know how big it is, and if you have like 8 cubes on the line, you're just like, oh, if I leave here and the blob is too small, I feel not very smart. But if I don't leave here and the blob is not that small or too big, I lose here, that kind of thing. So also one more thing about Blob is that like I mean because Blob Thanos is Thanos naturally is like weak versus Loki, right? So Blob makes the matchup a little bit closer, which is that the Thanos's Blob, I've never seen a stolen Blob from Loki be bigger than a Thanos Blob in my life. So that does make the matchup a bit closer, and I think it's really important. It's like one more card that Thanos has that when Loki steals is definitely worse for the Loki player. So like Peaceful said, it's not like an or be all 6-cost card. Like if you play it, you just win for sure, right? Because certain decks when they play it, it doesn't win for sure. Like if a Loki deck plays Blob, it doesn't win for sure. So yeah, it's kind of like you need a bit of a build around as well. So the card is really good. Don't nerf this card. It's like just a good 6-cost card, because like remember what they did to Doom? It became like a 5/4/4. Oh, that was bad. Like that was bad. But so I don't think they should nerf this card like almost ever, because the game needs good 6-cost cards, right? They just need some good 6-cost cards to exist without. And this is like in a fine spot. So yeah, that's what I like about Blob.
So they're knocking 2 power off this card. Go ahead, Peaceful.
I leave it alone. I was say,
they're going to. That's what they do.
They keep doing this to our good 6-drops, and it seems like usually the reason, other than Eliath, usually the reason is, oh well, it's like Doom. It's like, well, it's the most played 6-cost card in the game. I'm like, make better 6-cost cards then. Like stop killing all of the good 6-cost. It's your whole turn. You can't play it till turn 6 unless you're going to play Wave in your deck or Ramp in your deck. Like most of the time, that card is going to be your finisher. They need to be good. And they keep killing the good 6-cost ones to the point where you can't really play them. And then we're stuck playing Doom or, whatever else. I mean, you're going to kill Blob at some point, and we're going to be back to just putting Doom in all of our decks as a over-the-top finisher. And I'm going to be sad.
So if Kyera exists, and like we're still, I don't know if by the time people listen to this, they're actually going to release the new season information or not, but as of recording, we have no new season information. So that we think it's a Planet Hulk season is according to data mines right now, right? Like it's entirely possible we wake up tomorrow and it's like, and enjoy the Pet Avengers season. And we're just like, wait, what? Like there's no way to know for sure, right? Like they've proven to us that data mines aren't super reliable, but it's probably a Planet Hulk season. However, Firestar last season got pulled. I think the conversation around Blob changes with Kyra in the game. I think it might be too good with Kyra, because then there's only one answer to it in the whole game. I guess there's 2, but like, does Valkyrie count? But once there's only one answer to it, I think that changes things.
Do you really think Kyra is going to be running that many decks? I think that's a card that's a little overrated, personally. So I think you have to want both sides. I think she's good in Thanos, and she's good in Evolutionary. I agree with you about like it possibly being good at Thanos, but like that's such a specific, like you need both sides of that to be good for that card to be insane. Like it's fine if it protects your 1-drops. It's fine if it protects your 1 or maybe 2 6-drops you get in play. But I don't know. I think that card has gotten a lot more hype than it deserves, personally.
I did until I realized Evolutionary and Thanos, right? Like when Thanos was bad, I agreed. But like I can't just Killmonger off the stones is a nightmare. If I can get priority, and they should have priority, right? And like, I can't just get rid of that Sunspot and Misty Knight is a nightmare.
It'll be very good in like an Inchinot style build, but then what are you cutting for it? That's always the
Cosmo.
question, right? Yeah. Yeah, sure. But Cosmo's very good in certain matchups, so
Yeah.
it doesn't stop Shadow King. It doesn't stop a lot of other things that Cosmo would. So that's interesting. We'll see. I think it's a good card. I think it's like a 3 out of 5. I don't think it's a 5 out of 5. I guess is what I'm saying.
Kind of random, but does Eliath still destroy face down 6
Yes.
drops?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Kaira's out?
No stats while face down.
Yeah.
Lamby, land on Kyra for us.
So I'm leaning more towards like what Peaceful said as well, which is I think the card might be a bit overhyped because like firstly it's a 3/4, right?
Yep.
If I'm not wrong. Kyra is 3/4, right? It protects 1 and 6s. I think it's actually gonna be a like worse armor. It's very weird, but like I feel if armor was actually okay, let's just say Kyra was like something in the base set and armor was something that's a newly released card, right, in the next set or whatever, I think armor might be way more popular than Kyra ever will be. Like if I thought about it, like because I feel like armor is just too easy to use and it's like 1 cost cheaper. Kyra, I feel I get why it can be good, but it feels like you're playing the card and hoping your opponent plays the counter. If not, like it's relatively dead. It's Kyra would be something that I would consider if it was a 2 cost, like 2/3 as well, or like maybe even 2/2. But at 3 costs, in a game with only 6 turns, I don't really want to invest my turn 3 into this card. Like I don't even really want to invest my turns into Cosmo at all nowadays anymore because like 3/3 is not great. But like obviously Cosmo blocks combos too, so there's something to consider. Kyra feels like you need your opponent to have exactly what you are worried about to actually even warrant playing the card. So I think meta dependent. Currently my stand is that it's like a worse armor actually.
How
I
much
agree with
power
that.
would it need to have for you to want to drop it on 3?
5.
Yeah.
3/5.
3/5 is like the premium line.
Or like a scaling 3/4, which is like Shaw, but other than that, probably 3/5.
Yeah. The thing about like you got to think about with cards like that is it's got kind of like the great thing about armor is you can usually get it down into the turn they're doing it. Like she comes down the same turn as Killmonger, so you have to be winning for it to protect your 1 drops. So like if they know you're playing a deck that might have Kyra, they can just play Killmonger on 3 and kill them, right?
Good point.
And you have to have her in play already most of the time, unless you're playing. I can't think of a deck that can play Kyra and then get down multiple 6 drops to make her really worth it. Like they're not going to try and shang your 6 drop if a Kyra is sitting in play, right? So like, I mean, I don't know. It just limits the value you get from her so much. Like part of what makes armor so great is you can snipe their shang or whatever, right? That that they snap you like they have a shang. You play the armor on that lane because you have priority and you win. Like it's a lot harder to do that with Kyra because your big cards are going to be 6 drops, right? And you have to play them on turn 6 usually. So I don't know. That's just she requires very specific situations to be really, really good, and most of the time she's just going to be fine.
So Scar, right?
Yeah,
Like all
I
that's
do think
true
she's
except
fine with
Scar.
Scar. Yeah, but then what deck
Are we gonna discuss Scar? Because
Yeah.
I realized that I actually kind of like the card.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the card not because like, I know for sure it's gonna be good, but I want it to be good. I like this kind of cards. Like I love She-Hulk. She-Hulk was I think one of my back when it was like what at its original like series, right?
4.
I bought it straight up. I think
Mhm.
I think I bought it without any consideration. Like I just love the card. That style of cards, that controlled energy cheat style. Obviously, Scar is like worse because it's not just about ending the turn with energy left, but like I think building for Scar is not to build for a 0-10 Scar. You should build for a 2-10 Scar based on like the amount of cards that we have in the game right now and like what we can do with the energy curve without compromising too much. I think a 2-10 Scar is something that can be quite overpowered. Like if you go like I'm not saying we always play Sentry or Atuma, but like a 4-10 and then a 5-10 plus, and then you go Scar for 2 costs on 6 plus a Shang to kill their biggest thing plus anything 2+4 kind of situation is insanely strong. Like I think Scar is one of those cards that like 0-10 might be a pipe dream right now for now, but a 2-10 plus another big card like a Hawk, like a Shang, like a I don't know SK along with a 2-10 on turn 6 is such a huge tempo swing So I really want it to be good, but currently, obviously, there's not many like on curve big 10 cost stuff that we can really play, right? So
Well, it's fun.
hopefully, there's a way to fit all that in. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's funny you said Atuma, Sentry, and Darkhawk because those are all cards that are 4, right?
Yes.
So
Yes, exactly.
Zabu is where I'm excited to play it. I think that's something that people are sleeping on a little bit. I think that's my favorite home for him right now, but I think Scar's an excellent card. I think it's pretty balanced too, but I think it's an excellent card.
And he's at least good in
I think
Shuri,
it's
right?
balanced as well. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Like if you can get it to a 2-10 and you can just go like 4+2 with the Shuri on 6, which is kind of interesting as well. Plus, like we were talking about Zabu, all these things are all 4s.
You go Sauron into Typhoid Mary into whatever Red Skull, right?
And
like
Typhoid
now
Mary,
it's 2, and you have a 2/10 on your last turn that you can play with Ebony Maw and all the other bullshit. Like it's just
there is a way that you can get it to 0-10 though, but like it's so cheese. I was just thinking about it because I really like the card. Like you go like what's that? You go Forge into Gladiator.
Oh god!
Then you that's the 10 power that you need early enough.
Then it's losing the power because you have to play Sauron. Otherwise, Typhoid gives you -1.
Yeah. I mean, then you also have to play Forge into Gladiator, which is already very like cringy and like memey. So, but like I'm just saying that's like one way I saw it happening.
All right. Does anyone have Havoc thoughts? Because Havoc is my favorite card this month. I know he's not very good, but he's good.
All right, can I start on this one? I just want to say that like I've said in like 5 different places that it is not good, and I'm 100% wrong. I was wrong. After I saw Lauren's article, I went to like revisit the card, and I was like, okay, this guy's actually quite good. Like I actually think he's actually quite good. The amount of games that I won because of a 2/8 Havoc, specifically 2/8 because you played on turn 5. Then 2/4, then 2/8. It's also one of the most awkward cards. Like you don't realize this, but when you play against it, it's also one of the most awkward cards to Shadow King in your life because it goes back up to 2/4, and you will realize how impactful this extra +4 that cannot be stopped is when you play games against it. Because like a lot of the times when you Shadow King a lane, right, you can't really commit too much else extra on the final turn because like you need to play stats elsewhere to win the game as well. This thing just goes back +4 after you commit Shadow King to it. So it's actually very strong, and a lot of decks that I play right now, like bounce related stuff, like maybe like some lockdown related strats, or maybe Miss Marvel stuff. Like you don't actually need the full 6 energy on the final turn, right? If you build up like your tempo, and you have Havoc on the board like on 5. I mean, sometimes you can play it on 6, then you have no loss. But like if you play it on 5, sometimes it just wins. And also Havoc is one of those cards that solos closed off locations. Like, do you remember recently there was this like Kiln hot location thing? Like, I'm not saying that you only play Havoc during those periods, but like during the Kiln hot location, right? You just drop a Havoc. Like you drop a Havoc there on turn 4. It's also very crazy, right? You auto win that lane. And then if you play little guys, you can still win the other lanes with only 4 energy left. It's quite it's therapeutic and it's interesting at the same time. So I feel like just want to say first that I think Havoc actually is very underrated right now. The card is strong.
The Hitmonkey Bounce is just a good deck. Mr. C?
I have torn feelings on Havoc because I've had horrible luck playing with it, but a lot of that was with the decks that I actually tried it in it. I do think it's a good card. And I think it's good specifically in the ways that you all mentioned it, where you're either playing a deck that's very low to the ground and doesn't mind losing energy here and there, or you're playing in a deck where you play ahead for most of the game, you play it on turn 5 and you're just like, hey, it's basically a 3/8. That's really good. 3/8 with no other costs, no other restrictions. It just costs you 3 energy over 2 turns. That's not a bad deal at all. And I do think the Havoc Viper thing, it's kind of good they nipped that in the bud, but I also don't think that was all that strong, in the sense that that's where I lost a lot of my games, was because you're setting up this play that then turns around and like punishes you for the rest of the game as well. And you're behind on tempo because you just gave them this huge unit on their board. Yeah, it's sucking their energy away, but it doesn't matter because they win this lane for free unless you play a Shadow King or something there, which is harder to do because you have less energy every turn. It's an interesting card, and I actually think it's kind of the perfect design because it's strong and it's powerful, and there's a lot of reward to playing it correctly, but it's not super obvious and it's not super easy to play with. And I love that. I love cards like that, but I personally haven't had great luck with it just yet, but maybe I just haven't tried the right shells just yet.
Yeah, the downside of this card is significant if you play it wrongly or you just choose the wrong time to go in on a slightly earlier havoc, which is good, right? Because that's what makes the card like balance of sorts. Like the fact that it has scaling to 4 power every turn is actually busted without like this level of downside. So I like the card for what it's worth. It's not busted, but I think that's how it's supposed to be, right? Because this kind of cards, if they make it too easy to play, to use, can go wrong really quickly.
Yeti?
It turned out to be a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be horrible. I thought it was just going to be like a meme deck where you play Havoc into Viper. And so I was very wrong on it. I am glad that the Havoc Viper thing doesn't work out. I played it for a while, and you just seem to be playing catch-up the whole game, and you can never quite get enough power to win the game. So I'm glad it's not a thing, and I was very wrong on this card.
Whenever they released that weird-looking Series 4 that, like, everyone's like, well, that can't be good, it's good. Right? Like, it's really consistent. True. Like, Man-Thing was like, who cares about Man-Thing? And then, like, for at least a little bit there, Man-Thing was, like, good. Legion is obviously like the gold standard of that. Yeah, right?
Legion was the craziest.
But like almost all the just random Series 4s that they're just like, here's a Series 4 or whatever, have ended up being good. Also, there's a Professor X deck, and everyone laughs at me for this, but there's a Professor X deck that uses Ravonna, but it uses on turn 5 either Martyr or Havoc with Professor X.
I played the Havoc
I've seen
version.
That one.
I've
seen the Havoc version. Yeah.
Like it,
I like that one.
I think it wants Martyr also, and it just says my turn 5. Like your turn 5 is is basically like it's just that's a lot of power in that Professor X lane, right? That they can interact with. If you have a good 5 that can win a lane, like a Ronin type thing, you're in really good shape.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's move on to our interview segment because this is going to take forever. Okay, so first and foremost, what makes a healthy tournament metagame? And do we have one right now?
Personally, I think that there's two ways of looking at this. I'll talk about what I like first, then I'll talk about what in general should be like healthy. What I like is I like there to be like only like 2 or 3 best decks that I can prepare for, because like if you're a good player, you wanna like be able to do your homework, right? And like if there's too many decks to do your homework on, it's gonna be a bit difficult to like prep for everything. Like if there's like too many viable decks, sometimes it's very difficult to prepare also a 12 card deck that is fine into all these things. So personally, what I think might it's better for good players is that like there's like less decks but more obvious good decks that everybody plays, so you know how to prepare for those, and you can actually prepare for those with your 12 card deck, which is like I guess the Loki meta for quite a while. But I think in general, on the flip side though, having more viable decks also at a higher level just means that there is no one true king, right? There is no one true like powerhouse, and I guess it depends what your definition of healthy is. If it's about diversity, then yeah, we do want more viable decks in the game to be able to compete. But of course, if it's about like in terms of like favoring like competitive players, I do believe that most of us prefer less to prepare for and more about preparing well for what we know we will see.
Anything, Ted?
So I pretty much agree with that. I think the one thing I would add is I always like to see a metagame where decks have natural counters to them within the metagame. A common example people love to give is from Magic, where it's like aggro counters combo counters control, and then control counters aggro, and you have this rock paper scissors thing where the metagame sort of naturally solves itself. Like that, I think that's super important. And in Snap, it's weird because it's a lot harder for that to be a true thing, because what's good at any given time can vary so wildly. And there's times where there's a running joke on my stream where people are like, yeah, when Super Scroll is one of the best cards in the game, then Marvel Snaps at like an awful place. And it's kind of true. Like there's these certain cards where when you start seeing them popping up, the metagame's really unhealthy, because it just means like certain strategies have become way too powerful and are way too are making it like really oppressive to play anything else. So that's what I always look for, is that sort of rock paper scissors where there's not that one dominant strategy that you're constantly having to play around or lose to. Like a really good example is like the Zabu, the original Zabu deck, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit when we talk about the top decks. But that metagame, when it was the best deck, there was no counter to it. Like there just wasn't. Like there wasn't a deck you could play where like, oh yeah, I beat Zabu. I guess Sandman was good, but even then Sandman was still a 4-1 then. So like you couldn't play Sandman. Sandman wasn't a card you could actually put in your deck at the time. So I think that's the big thing that I look for, especially for tournaments, is being able to pick decks to beat what I think people are going to play, but knowing that I have my choices having consequences where like I can't just pick, like Lamby said, Loki and know that I'm going to have the best deck going into the tournament. I have to actually think about what people could play to beat me. So that's what the only thing I would add to that.
Yeti?
I don't really have anything to add. Don't play too many tournaments in Marvel Snap.
Fair enough. What are your I want to answer this one first because I think it answers both questions at once. What are your favorite metagame tournaments? Metagames for tournaments. Like in Marvel Snap's history, which metagame has been the best for tournaments? And I'll tell you right now, my favorite was that when it was the Darkhawk Nebula deck that was the best deck, because I like when the best deck has like, because that was like a mid-range best deck, and there were high rolls that could beat it. There were a lot of different things that had game, and what won, it felt like, was more player diff, and I want enough decks to be on an equal playing field, where there's a best deck, right? Everyone knows the best, or the best couple decks, but then player diff makes up, like, a larger percentage of that gap. I think that's what's healthy to me.
All right. So for me, it's a few things, right? Like, of course, my favorite meta games are the one that I win the most. That's obvious, right? Like when you are winning the most,
So
that's
all of them?
probably something that you like to do. Okay, there are some that are more winning, but like, okay, anyway. So I feel like one thing Glazer said is very important, which is like meta games where I have like player agency, where I feel like I'm in control of what I'm doing. Like, okay, RNG is RNG, that's normal. Every card game, every scenario, every meta game has RNG. But I feel like when I'm in control of what I do and like doing it right gets me an edge over players. And I win because of that. I think those are the meta games that I enjoy the most. So one of it was like the Silk Smooth meta, the one where the Silk deck was like the top deck for a bit, right after the Darkhawk deck got pushed down a little bit. That one, I think, was one of the first few times whereby card placement was like absurdly important because of like Silk movements, knowing about initiative, so that like you can move the Silk or you can like not move the Silk, sometimes throwing initiative, that kind of thing. That was one of the metas that I liked, and like you could really see and feel like the players that knew what they were doing were like winning more because of all these little interactions. Another one that I really like, the meta, this one is gonna be like not popular opinion, but like one of my favorite metas is actually the last 2 months, actually the Loki meta, because not just because I was like, okay, obviously because I was doing well in it, but like the Loki meta is super high skill, but for what it's worth though, it's more boring in general, because like there's like what a one true king kind of thing. There's like Loki is always on top. It's more boring, facts. But it's also in terms of a competitive tournament meta, you know for sure that like if you are good with Loki, you just beat everyone, and like it rewards you being good at the best deck, you know. So I invested a lot of time into this because I felt like I could have true edge in the game by like being the best at Loki. So it's not the most fun meta in terms of fun. Don't get me wrong. I don't think like having only one playable deck is fun. But in terms of like tournaments, right? Like in terms of when looking at just winning, right? If you can be in a position whereby mastering something puts you way ahead of everyone else, then I think that's good for tournaments if you put in the groundwork. That's for sure.
I will say, as like a spectator of tournaments, I like when there's a diverse enough metagame where there's different decks that you're seeing, but a slim enough metagame where the good players, you can see them get the results that they should be getting with the work that they're putting in.
That's true.
So like just enough decks that I'm not watching Loki against Loki every single matchup, but not so many where, say, Lamby, is getting eliminated just because his matchups were terrible the first few rounds.
The worst metagame is the shirted Red Skull one, just for the record.
Oh yeah, I didn't really like that one.
It was so boring.
Bad. Yeah.
No, can I just say that was not the worst one to me, but I get what you mean. The worst one to me was there's this deck right after Silky Smooth,
the
Forge
Brood
Brood
Me?
Apps.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was awful.
Oh my
God,
god.
that deck's so boring.
That one was the all I can say is that like no matter the skill difference between the best player and the skill difference between the worst player in that game is about 0.5%. It's like if they just drew the curve, you cannot beat it no matter how good you are, and you cannot lose no matter how not good you are if you drew the curve. So that was one time I wasn't really enjoying myself.
It's fair.
Yeah.
It's the same deck as Shuri Red Skull. There is no difference between those
Similar.
two decks. I draw this, I play this.
They
Then
are.
I draw that,
Yeah.
then I play this.
It's curve stone,
Yeah.
as we called it in Hearthstone, where you don't have to think. You just play the cards with the number that matches your energy. That's it.
That
You
was
just,
it.
just make sure you don't play them into the lane that shrinks all your stuff. That's fine. You got it. The only thing I'll add, I don't have a lot to add to this. My favorite metagames and tournaments for Snap have always been the ones where Thanos is at least a viable archetype. My very favorite one was, I can't even remember the exact time. I want to say it was over the summer, where Thanos and Darkhawk were two of the best decks. Because I know a lot of Thanos players hate that matchup.
It's
I
the
love
W
it because
meta.
I think it's such a skill testing matchup where, as the Thanos player, you have to really know what you're doing against the Darkhawk player. And also, there's like this weird sub game where, like, the rocks, even though they do grow their Darkhawk, they're a lot less relevant against Thanos because your deck's bigger in general. So there's like this weird, like, I don't know, there's this weird tension there as well where they know you're also less likely to draw the rocks. So you're a lot more likely to have gas in your hand. So it just, I don't know. That was a fun metagame for me personally. I know a lot of people didn't love that metagame, but I always find that matchup interesting. I like when that matchup comes up a lot.
Yeah, fun fact, I just remembered something. So regarding the Thanos meta game, it's not always a Thanos meta, but like the funny thing about Thanos is he's really, this is just something I just want to throw in here because it's funny, but like Thanos is really just inevitable because like every single meta, because I play the most tournaments, right? I play like almost every single like meta of tournaments, like every single like decent sized tournament, right? Somehow, no matter what it is, when it is, there will be one Thanos deck in the top 8.
That's just
Yep.
because
Out of
that's
nowhere.
just because Johnson's in every tournament too.
That's one reason as well. But like honestly, there will be a Thanos deck like from someone even in the worst possible environments for Thanos. He's just really just there sometimes here and there randomly, no matter what meta it is. It's kind of interesting.
So I don't know if you remember this, Lamby, but the first time you were on the podcast, it was like right after High Evolutionary came out, and we were both like, "Get Thanos! Like it'll be amazing forever." And when High Evolutionary was immediately broken, I got yelled at about that all the time. People were like, "No, Thanos is dead." I was like, "Thanos won't be dead for long. Calm down. Thanos won't be dead for long. Calm down." And it's just Thanos is incredible.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's one of the cards. I think they need to keep it good in Snap because it gives the game such a variety. And I honestly hate that they've changed so many of the stones because all it really did was hurt all of the other cool Thanos decks. Like they were never top tier, but like Destroy Thanos was a pretty good deck for a while. And then they killed Soulstone. And now they've nerfed Mind Stone. And it's just like it feels so much worse to play. Like the Mind Stone one wasn't as bad because you can kind of like you can play X23 and sometimes you can get a more consistent curve with it that way, but it's still like I don't know. They keep hurting the other Thanos decks at the expense of the control Thanos. So I'm hoping maybe this Professor X change makes them lighten up a little bit on the Thanos hate.
All right. So the next question is: this is a brand new player who not a brand new player, like a player who's not played tournaments but played in general. What tips for improvement do you have for someone who's just trying to get good at Conquest and tournaments?
I think it's two very different things. Tournaments and okay, so the question is someone that wants to get good at battle mode, or
let's say get at battle mode for the time being. I think that's a good way to put it. They're bad at battle mode. They can succeed at ladder, they hit infinite, they can climb a bit, but they don't know how to battle mode.
I think one of the most important transitions from ladder to battle mode that like people will experience first and then they need to notice is that they need to realize that like every single obviously on ladder it does matter as well, but like in battle mode it's even bigger. You need to realize every single cube matters because you need to know what each cube does for you and like the cube totals where you can do different things. It's about like it's like playing position in poker. It's quite interesting. Like I talk about this a lot. Like there's a lot of like free snaps in like battle mode, like 4-3 high stakes insta snap, that kind of things. I talk about this a lot. Like people need to realize that every single cube in battle mode is, you do things very differently at every single different life total. So one of the most common things I hear in chat on stream is like, I would be like, do I want to find out what he's having here for like one extra cube? Then chat will be, first answer is, oh, it's just one cube, it's worth it. That's the most like wrong thing ever in battle mode, because every single cube you are supposed to do, every single cube total you're supposed to do a drastically different thing. And it's very difficult to know this without experiencing like different scenarios in battle mode. So I would say one thing a player transitioning from ladder to battle mode needs to really know is that like knowing what to do at different cube totals between you and your opponent like just wins games on its own, even without looking at the matchup.
Yeah, I think you have to cut out
Yeah.
all those plays where let's see what happens. I think that's a big thing
Oh
for
yes,
people.
please. Yes. Yes.
And I think people need to play more aggressive in Conquest or in battle mode than they do on ladder. I think when you do have, you know, that prime 2-drop or whatever, you need to be snapping early and more often than you probably do on ladder. I think that's probably the shift that I have to make when I go switch over to Conquest.
Peaceful?
Yeah, Conquest is like the real key to it, like Lammy said, is just resource management. And the biggest resource you have in Snap is your cubes, like when you're playing Conquest. So one of the things that really helped me is when we did our episode, I'm going to plug our next level Snap a little bit more. When we did our episode on cube management and all of that, like I've come to really value the first 4 rounds a lot more, in the sense that I snap a lot less aggressively than I used to. I'm going to feel out my opponent. I'm going to see what they like to do. I'm going to try and figure out what tendencies my opponent has before I start going in on the bigger cube investments, because at a certain point, after round 4, you are on high stakes. You have to be in for 2 cubes or 4 cubes. You don't get the choice of being in for 1 cube or 2 cubes until the last round. So it's just being smart with your resources and paying attention to what your opponent does. That's the biggest thing that's different from ladder to conquest. Is in ladder, in general, I mean, once you get into like actual infinite and you're playing against some of the same people because you're at a similar rank, then you can kind of watch for tendencies from them. But overall, ladder, it's a lot less about tendencies and a lot more about just playing your opponent for that one round. But in Conquest, you're going to play this person, if you're smart, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row. You can start to figure out what they think is snappable, what they like, where they're going to play their cards and that sort of thing. You can just get a lot of advantages that way.
I mean, ask what your opponent is telling you, but not just about like the cards, right? Or about the locations. Ask what they're telling you about themselves. Like they're saying with every move, I like to do this.
I think just want to add one more final thing, because like if we go too deep into this will be the entire episode. But like no, I'm not. Okay. But like I'm just gonna add one more thing into this, is because you did ask me a bit, Glazer, at the start, like about tournaments as well. So we talked about like transitioning from ladder to battle mode, right? I think transitioning from just straight up battle mode to tournaments is also a different thing. And I think one thing, if there's only one thing that you should take note of, right, from battle mode, normal battle mode to tournaments, that you need to focus on, is you need to really embrace this idea that you are not just playing cards, you're playing your opponent as well. So one of the biggest things that I do that people don't do or they can't do currently because they don't realize it is that you need to, like Peaceful mentioned, you need to really understand what your opponent is thinking. It's crazy to say that like just looking at them play cards for 2 rounds, I can literally know how they think. But if you can reach that state, I really assure you that you can predict like 70 to 80% of what they intend to do. It's that you can classify people into different types of players very easily if you just see how they play their cards in the first 2 rounds. Like, are they aggressive? Are they passive? Do they like to play safe? Do they like to snap aggressively? Like, you just look at what your opponent does especially in tournaments, and you will see a lot of things. It takes a lot of practice. I'm just like saying it in a nutshell, but that's one of the biggest transitions that you can make from casual battle mode to tournaments that you need to make if you want to get better at tournaments. Yeah.
All right. That basically covers the next question. So let's jump into, do you think any of the upcoming cards are tournament relevant? And I'm just going to read the 5 cards. Kaera, 3/4, which protects your 1s and 6 cost cards. They can't be destroyed. Scar, which is 6/10 or 6/11, I don't actually remember which, gets -2 cost for each 10 cost cards you have in play. Hercules is a 4/6. Whenever a card would move here, move it away from there, which is the coolest card. It's just not good. Miek is a 1/1 that gets +1 and moves every time you discard a card. And Grandmaster is a 2/0 on reveal, move an on reveal card here to the center location and trigger its on reveal again. Any of these tournament relevant?
Personally, the only I was going to say the only one that I think is going to be in several tournament decks is probably Scar. I think Hercules is one of the worst cards they've ever made. I agree with you, Glazer. It's such a cool design, but it's like, why? And Miek, Miek, I can't decide. Like, it seems like it's good, right? Like, it's a 1-drop for discard that actually scales. Like, it's kind of cool, but like, I honestly just want to see what happens when you play a Modok with this on board. Like, does it just like zoom around your board like 8 or 6, like 7 or 8 times while all your
fast forward
swarms discard? Yeah, but I don't know that that's good enough to make discard like a top meta deck for tournaments. And then I think Grandmaster is just severely under, like, they clearly were scared this card's going to be too good. And if it releases as a 2/0, I don't know that it's going to see much play.
That's a 1/0, friend. It's going to be busted.
I thought it was a 2/0.
Yeah, but Ravona exists.
Oh, fair. It's still, I don't know.
What is Miek's text again? Can you read it one more time?
So it's a 1/1, and whenever you discard a card, and I'm going to double check that I have this exactly right. Whenever you discard a card, it gets +1 power and moves.
Yep, that's perfect.
I think it will zoom across the board with Modok. Yeah. I think it's for every card discarded, not like just the effect. So I think it will just go zoom. Yeah, I also think so. But yeah, okay. No, I don't really know how to.
No, it only moves once. It only moves once. After each turn, if you discarded any cards, gain +1 power for each.
Oh, okay. So it's like each instance.
So it still gets a bunch of power, but it only moves once.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah,
it's not as cool. That's quite a lot worse because the Modok interaction doesn't work. But yeah, I don't really know how to evaluate some of these cards right now. But I think Scar could be decent. I think Kaera is not good. I think Hercules, like as you guys have said, is cool design, but why, right? Grandmaster, I agree with what Peaceful said, that like they were very scared of printing something too busted. That's why it's where it looks like right now. But I still think it can be cracked. Like, I have no idea how, but this is the kind of card that like you just need one interaction with another card in one particular archetype to make it go crazy. I don't know what that archetype or that card is yet, but like,
Monkey, right?
there's bound to be one. Sorry,
Monkey in the Sarah deck.
Yeah,
it could be that,
pick,
or
right?
like.
Yeah, but it's if there's only one on reveal, you sure do, right? Like.
Yeah, but what bounce deck only runs one on reveal, right?
Well,
I guess
wait, Grandmaster re-triggers on reveal that's already on the board. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm looking.
Okay. So it doesn't work with 6s. It probably works with like a high value on review that's played earlier in the game. I'm quite sure there is something. These kind of cards can just go wrong very quickly, but I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, move one of your other on reveal cards here to the middle location. Its ability happens again. That's the other thing, is you have to play it on the middle location by the way it's worded.
You play this,
it doesn't have to move
on that card's location. That card moves to the middle.
Oh, okay. I'm reading it backwards. I see. Oh, that is fairly better than what I was thinking it was.
So my immediate thought is something like Werewolf into Sarah, and then you just play a bunch of on reveals, and then your last turn, like let's say your right lane for argument's sake, is Hit Monkey, Grandmaster, and no other on reveals, and that will pull Werewolf over to that right lane and your hit monkey is going to trigger twice and end up in the center.
So it's not as limited as I thought, but you still can't play it to the middle location, correct?
To get
we
don't
the trigger
know.
again?
That's going to be one of those stupid snap wording things
that we have to find out.
Yeah, it's a wording thing. I'm not sure as well.
So, like, it's a period. Its ability happens again. Does it have to move for its ability to happen again? Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm convinced that card's going to be good. And Scar is going to be busted. I think Scar is, like...
I think Scar is very good.
Going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I'm excited for Scar and Grandmaster. Grandmaster, cause it's... mainly because I don't know what to do with it, but I believe it's going to do something. Yeah.
Scar is 6'11". That's nuts.
It is. They did leave it. I thought somebody had said that they changed it. It was 11 originally. Yeah, that part's very good.
It's showing it's still very
I think it should
11.
be 6'11", by the way. Like if they thought it should release at 6'11", they should keep it that way, because like this card is not good because it's like gonna be cheap just because of that. You have to actually build around this card.
Yeah.
So making it a 6'10" is, I feel like, shortchanging it a little bit. I really hope it's a 6'11".
Yeah. Y'all got me intrigued about Grandmaster now, because it is. It's one of those things where I looked at it and I'm like, okay, this card must have been busted when they were testing it, because it's a 2-0. Like that's like Adam Warlock would be the most busted card if it was just a 2-1 or a 2-2. So you know that there was something going on here that they were scared of.
The last 2-0 they released in the game was Hitmonkey.
True.
Yeah. No, the thing is, this card just works with. Like, it's like, this card is very Iron Lad-ish for me. Not saying it's as good as Iron Lad. Iron Lad is just insane. But like, it's the kind of card whereby it gets a new use case every time they print a new Marvel Snap card, right?
I just realized I figured out a use for it. Oh, that's never going to work. Okay. Never mind. I was like, you can use it to re-trigger MODOK. What the fucking good does that do? And how do you keep it? And you can't keep it in hand. You'd have to top deck it. So,
yeah. So Grandmaster is just one of those cards that like every time they print a new on review, it has a new use case. So this kind of cards can't really be bad, I feel.
Yeah.
You know
this
what's
not
funny
a crazy
with?
idea though, Glazer.
It's funny
you
with
can trigger your smaller ones.
It's funny with Hella Lockjaw. Like your Hella pops out, you just don't run a lot of on reveals. You run a lot of big shit. Your Hella pops out early, you just throw a Grandmaster there. Hey, Hella just activated.
Oh, that's the meme one. The meme way of
Look,
yeah,
it's
that
a
is
fun
a meme.
It's a fun meme.
It is a fun meme.
And then it's in Lockjaw, so you're still getting another big card out of it. All right. Okay. We're gonna Lamby, you're last for this one. We're gonna go Peaceful Yeti. Lamby, you're at a pub after a convention or a tournament, and people are talking about you. What do you hope to hear?
I don't know. I think I'd be pretty excited that they were talking about me. That probably meant something went well, right? But in all seriousness, I would just want. I've always said, like, if I do well in tournaments, I want it to be done the right way. I want to be someone that people respect, that people enjoy playing against. Like, the example I always go back to is because it's what I grew up like watching tournaments for was Magic, and there were certain players where even when they did well, like as a community, everybody was just kind of like, oh, really? And a lot of those have been expelled from the Magic community since because of things that have been unearthed about them. Turns out they weren't very good humans, on top of being really scummy and annoying to play against in tournaments. I would just want to be known as somebody who was an enjoyable person to play against and somebody that people respected. Like, I think that's really all you can ask for, right? Like Lammy, like, that's what's so cool about Lammy is that he's one of the best players in Snap, but like I've never heard someone say a bad word about him. He's just such a nice guy, and that's the type of person I want to be. So someday I'll be as good at Lammy. I think I'm about as nice, but like as far as the skill level goes, I still got a pretty big gap. So I'm working on that.
Yeti?
I feel like if people were talking about me, I'd be concerned. I don't think I'm nearly big enough for people to just be talking about me at a bar. But I don't know. I guess I don't know. They like my content. They think I hope they would come over to talk to me. I don't really have an answer for this.
Fair enough. Lamby?
All right, so I need to debunk one thing first. So you guys think I'm a nice person because I've been playing Marvel Snap, but like you need to know that like Marvel Snap is the least competitive card game I've ever played in my life right now. So like I was playing Hearthstone and like Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that, right? I am like down to the core. I am the competitor. I am the most like unscrupulous competitor. I will like basically I'm just that guy that like if there's a rule in place, right, I will not let you like I'll not give you any chance. I'm like by the rule, if I win, you will never get any other chance kind of person ever. Because competition is competition, right? But like, so obviously stuff like that, people, I mean, you will sometimes say that like you're not that nice of a person because you like didn't like give chance or something like that. But like obviously I don't have to because it's a tournament. But yeah, no. Okay, let that aside. I feel like if I were at a tournament or like a post tournament party, I'm assuming this is what this is about. I guess no matter how many times people say it, like no one can deny, like even other good players in other games, if someone is like praising you, right, like after event, after you did a good performance or whatever, you still enjoy it. Like no matter how many times you've heard it, you will like the feeling, right? So of course I just generally want people to like hopefully say good things to me or about me after the event, like maybe whether I did well, whether I did not do well, like I hope they just like the fact that I was competing, you know, like it's just as simple as that. Like I think being in the presence of other card players, competitors, everyone has like mutual respect and stuff like that. So like I guess the most important thing is you don't really want people spreading misinformation about you, and you also don't really want there to be really any negative sayings if possible. So just generally anything that is more positive, I think would be fine. Like you know, like since we're talking about a pub, right? People can be saying anything they want to say. So as long as it's positive speak, I'm good. Yeah.
Fair enough. Let us get to our main topic. All right, let's imagine that Marvel Snap has released every broken deck. They've looked at the metrics and they said, these are all of the best decks, every best deck for the meta. But you can't change any cards. You have to play them as they were the best. So we're going to have one giant tournament of all the very best decks in Marvel Snap's history. We're going to rank them into a top 10. This is obviously going to be opinion-based. We cannot play these decks against each other for the most part, but I think the conversation in figuring out what the best of the best is, were you able to play all these against each other, is going to illuminate a lot about the game and how it's developed. And I'd like to give a special thanks to JD McDonaldino, because he found the decks I couldn't find, and I used Cam best. I spoke to Cam about this, and I used his Twitter to get like 80% of the decks. So thank you to both of them. Do any of you have any questions about how this is going to work?
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm ready.
All right. So, just quickly, listeners, comment what the best deck is that we didn't consider that might make the top 10. We'll pick a favorite, and whoever is on next episode, I know who, but you all don't, we'll discuss that deck also. All right. The decks we'll be discussing alphabetically, and then we'll go through them 1/2 at a time because we're sort of comparing them. That's the whole purpose. The first best deck upon global launch was Deathwave. Then we have Leech Leader, the first Surfer, Zabu, when it was a 3/2, Thanos Lockjaw, Shuri, which is just, base original Shuri, Thanos Valhalla, the deck that made Lamby famous, Darkhawk Stats, Iron Patriot 1, Bounce, Galactus, Evo Lockjaw, Thanos Lane Control 2, that's the W list, Silky Smooth, Brood Absorbing Man, everyone's favorite, and then Loki Elsa and Loki Werewolf. Before we go further, I did a thing that I'm not sure if I'm going to get yelled at or not for, so we can change one thing that if necessary, but we won't have the deck to talk about. I chose Loki Elsa over Loki pre-Elsa with Quinjet, because I think Elsa is so strong that like automatically having Elsa in it makes it the best Loki deck, especially because there's no Mobius in any of these.
I kind of mentioned this before we started, but the only objection I have to that is like Elsa was so good that like I don't know what, like 80% of decks were just playing her. So like her, like I don't know, I don't think that differentiated Loki that much from the other decks that we were playing at the time. Is my only issue with that. I do think the Loki deck on launch with Loki as a 3/5 was the most obnoxious version of Loki we've had. Personally,
Loki was still a 3/5 with Elsa. It wasn't a 4 until Werewolf.
That's true. Yeah. I think the list you had in here is why I got mixed up. Let me look.
So now we need to pick like the top one, the most powerful in this list, right? Is that what the question is?
Yeah, and we'll go a couple at a time because we were trying to get the top 10.
Okay.
So, Oh,
Yep, go.
sorry. Our first two decks that we'll be comparing are Deathwave. This is the, like, as soon as She-Hulk came out version that could go wave on 4 and basically lock out the last turn, and the opponent would then play Death She-Hulk and Doom, or Death She-Hulk and Arrow. Yeah, that was a thing that happened to Marvel Snap, which was completely broken. That original Deathwave, and then the next deck is a Leech Leader. So Leader was, the important card here is Leader, was a 6/4 that copied everything your opponent played that game space pending. Sorry, that last turn space pending. And the rest of the deck was largely designed to have, like, just really strong stats. The other most powerful card in the deck was Arrow, which was a 5/8 that moved everything your opponent played that turn to early.
So we're comparing which is better
of these two
versus
is
each
better
other, or
against each other. Because that's where we start. Because we start with just two, and then we'll
Okay.
eventually cut things and so on.
Okay, I'll start this one. So this deck that we are looking, this Leech Leader deck is Dara's brainchild. I remember he built it for the hot location, and it kind of just worked because this is okay. For what it's worth, right? I think this is like one of the best things Dara has ever did for the game, because this deck, right, is the epitome of good OG Marvel Snap deck building, which is you play stats, you win lanes, you get initiative, you Arrow or Leader, and then you win. Like it's just core concept Marvel Snap. You just play some stats and then you get initiative, then you win. So I think this deck was like one of the first looks for many players into like, oh, I need to actually care about like my stats, like stats is real, and then priority is real. You know, all these kind of things. Like, so this deck was really, really powerful. I mean, for its time, of course, like now it's completely bad, right, in the current state of the game. But like, for its time, this was really good. And as you can see here, it naturally ran armor as well, which was natural counter to Deathwave. And I remember it used to be like people play White Queen to steal like the She-Hulks or like the Dooms from the Deathwave deck, with Leader as well. And of course, Leech is Leech, right? If you play Leech on 5, they play Wave on 5, and then you just stop them from doing all their nonsensical combos and stuff. So I think this deck is favored into the Deathwave deck. One thing I want to add, at least, is just that I feel like Deathwave in general, even at its prime form, the one that we had in the past, She-Hulk, Doom Wave, Death, that deck, the problem with that deck in general was that you have to draw in a very specific order. If you look at the deck, right, you literally had to draw in a very specific order. If not, your deck was like non-functioning. And this kind of decks have like a natural fail rate to them. So contrary to popular belief, I never was a huge fan of Deathwave because I had very little control over what I could do, because the deck just falls apart if you don't draw in a very specific order. And yeah, that's my take. I think Leech Leader is better.
Yeti?
Yeah, I agree. I remember that whole Leech Leader. Was it January of this year? It was an insane time. And all the cry about Leader and Arrow, to be honest, but the Leech Leader stuff was a problem. So I do think it's better than the She-Hulk Death deck.
Peaceful?
It's interesting. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about with having a dynamic. This is why I kind of agree with Lamby that Deathwave was always, to me, a little bit overrated, because it was one of those decks where when it high rolled, like nothing could beat it unless you played Leech, or unless you played, like there was all these different counters you could play to make Death not get small enough, or to, to do all these things to counteract it, or, sometimes you didn't have prio and you could just, Shang something and win that way. There was just a lot of ways to beat the deck because it was very linear and it did its own thing. But what made Leech, the Leech Leader deck, so oppressive is like just thinking about that curve, right? They go Wave, you go Leech, their whole hand does nothing, and then if you're ahead, you just Leader and you always win. Like the deck was oppressive in a way that we haven't really seen exactly the same sense, because of how they changed Leader. Like I think the closest thing you could say is probably to like maybe Eliath, like to be in a similar feeling to where like it didn't matter what you do, if they were ahead going into turn 6, they just won. And it was a crazy deck. I remember when I first started playing was when this deck had first started becoming really popular. I started like right at global launch, but when I really started getting into Snap was when this deck was blowing up, and it almost made me quit Snap on the spot. Like that's how oppressive this deck was. Because fun fact, and I can actually get a platform here where more people can hear me vent about my horrible luck. The last 2 cards I got from Series 3 were Arrow and Leader, long after this deck was nerfed.
Yikes.
So I especially hated this deck.
I'm pretty sure I bought Arrow with no, I didn't buy Arrow. I didn't have enough tokens to buy Arrow, and then I opened her like a day later, and I almost cried. Arrow was like so I don't think Leader was actually that hard to beat without Leech. If they didn't leech you, you can beat Leader by basically playing a lot of small stuff and making it so that your big stuff wouldn't get copied. Right, yeah. Because like they had all this stuff on the board and they can only fill locations. They expressed the limit to 4 slots. It was that your stuff didn't do anything that made it so toxic. We're gonna see Leech all over this damn list, which I think is kind of like informative to how powerful that card is. Also, this deck is probably better with America instead of Magneto. Just saying.
Yeah, I agree. But that was always true. People just took too long to get on board with Chavez. Yeah. Like she would have gotten.
You remember that it was Dara that made this deck, right? He's never gonna play Chavez.
Yeah,
come on.
Dara hates math. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So we have our first 2. Let us go to our third deck, and our third deck is the original Surfer. This is JD took a picture of this from an old Cozy video. This is the one that ran Iceman and Scorpion. I believe most versions ran Nova over Mr. Fantastic, so that they can kill it with Killmonger. That was when Nova was a 1/2, so there's very little downside to playing him. And then it's just like Storm and Juggernaut to like blow stuff up, and then it's Sarah, and then you just play 3 3/3s ending in Surfer, and Surfer gives everything on the board plus 3 power, not plus 2 power. Although he was a 3/0. Alright. Is this better than either of our previous 2 decks?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this is mad. Like, I just want to say that, like, if you just so Surfer was a 3/0 that went +3 to all 3 cost cards. Right? If you just count the number of 3 cost cards in this deck, Brood is 3 pieces. Mr. F, Storm, Cosmo, Juggernaut, Killmonger, Polaris Max. Silver Surfer is a 3/24.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like this is mad. Like, I think this deck, like, okay, before we will eventually talk about Zabu, I know, but like this deck, I felt like in terms of pure power was also way ahead of its time. Like this card, Silver Surfer, could be released like 1 year after its original release date and still get nerfed. Like that's how OP I think OG Surfer was. Like at this point, just looking at this deck, I think we don't really care what other 3 costs are in the deck. It's just that you play 3s and you play Surfer and then you just go boom. So I really think this deck was like way too much power for its time. That's my stand on this.
Was Surfer nerfed before Leech Leader, or were they around at the same time?
I think it's after,
nope,
right?
Same exact time. Leech Leader actually beat Surfer fairly regularly.
Because
you would
of
have
Leech.
It was a battle of. Largely because of Leech. You would have to try and you would have to forego your Sarah and try and get Cosmo on their Leech spot, which was a guessing game.
Remember, this was when Leech was on reveal.
But if you Surfered on 5, that meant you had to have Brood and another 3 out, like very consistent. And you can still win that way, right? But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Everyone immediately said this was better than the last 2 decks we just talked about, but this and Leech Leader were around at the same time, and Leech Leader seemed to be the only thing people were complaining about.
So I think Leech Leader is better than this. I do. Okay. I think Surfer is a better card than anything in Leech Leader, but I think this is a better. I think Leech Leader was more flexible.
There's this weird snap thing that I've noticed, and Lamby and I have talked about this a little bit, like just off topic when we were doing our next level snap. Like people hate losing to like things they feel are like Goliath, like Leader, like they hate those things more than they rationally should, but they'll be so fine. Like Elsa, like think about it. Everybody knew Elsa was busted from the second she came out, but people rarely complained about Elsa. And that's just because she's just a pile of points. Like she doesn't do anything devastating to you. She doesn't mess up your personal game plan. She just was like a 214 or 217 sometimes. Like, you know, that's totally fine. We don't care. But you Goliath me and I'm going to be mad. You know, that was like, it's so like, that's one of the weirdest things about the Snap community that I've never understood. And that's why I think people remember this deck less oppressively as Zabu, because this was around when Zabu was around too, and those were the two best decks. And the only reason Zabu won the matchup was because Zabu had Spider-Man into Absorbing Man,
Spider-Man.
which was everybody's favorite thing. We all loved that. Everybody loved not getting to play cards. So
Ever. This is
Yeah.
so stupid.
Ever.
but this deck was nuts. I remember that was one of the few months I went back to look, because I was for sure I had the Herald of Galactus uh, title, because that was the infinite reward for this month. I was sure I had it because I'd played that month, but I was still playing pretty casually. And I remember I got about halfway through the month, I was like ranked 95, and I was like, if I see one more Surfer deck, I'm uninstalling this game. So I just didn't play for like 3 weeks. It was really funny. So this deck was crazy. This deck was so hard to beat.
I hit infinite with Sand Ramp.
Yeah,
So did
that's a good choice into this one. Yeah, that was a good choice into this one. Because one of the craziest point decks. I think this was the precursor to the Elsa move, Brood Absorbing Man style decks we've seen today. Like this did it first, and it did it arguably better. I think
Well, I don't think
Surfer.
arguably.
I think it was just better. It was crazy. Surfer was a crazy card, man.
I
Still
like
a
that
good
argument.
card.
Maybe I like it better
Yeah.
than Leech Leader.
Look, I'm fine throwing it at number 1.
Put it at number 1 for now.
My only argument is Surfer in this deck is like on average 321. So
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
Right.
that's a lot of stats. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. It's just you have to get Surfer off. You need Surfer and Brood.
yes.
So I did not like playing this deck. I like playing Surfer, but I didn't like playing this deck, even though it was really strong. It was just like, so much of the game was like, did I draw Surfer? I win!
Yeah.
Did I not draw Surfer?
Yeah.
Gotta go!
Yeah. So, and this is I remember I was talking about the aggro versus control versus combo. Like this was the combo deck, right?
Oh yeah.
And Leech Leader was the aggro deck. You put points down, and then you leeched them, and they couldn't do anything. Like this was that was the dynamic here. Like, so like I think people will remember this matchup very differently, or this deck very differently because of that. Because you could just play Leech Leader and beat this a lot of the time, but this deck was stupid. This is really dumb. Oh.
All right. Next up, we have our first real contender for number 1. Oh, wait. What did I do?
I don't know what you did, but it should be next.
Oh, yeah. Original Zabu.
Yeah.
I'm putting
Zabu,
Surfer
right?
above Leech Leader, right?
Yeah. I got it.
Making
Oh,
it
you're
less-
doing it? You're awesome.
Yeah.
I will stop doing it. I didn't realize you were.
Nice.
That's amazing. That is so much easier for my life. All right. So we now have the original Zabu. This isn't even like the exact build. This is just the best one I can find.
Yeah.
But like it's close enough. The original Zabu, with Spider-Man Absorbing Man, and with Zabu and Darkhawk and Rockslide, and just it ran Leader and Arrow because why wouldn't it?
Yeah, 4/6 Rock Slide. Forgot how big Rock Slide used to be.
Well, because Rockslide was considered the worst card in the game, and then Darkhawk came out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the version that I remember being very popular and the one that I liked the most was, I don't know if you guys remember this streamer called Code Deco.
Yeah, of course.
The
one with Shuri.
Yeah, they were doing Black Widow into Lady Sif. Lady Sif discarding Professor X, Ghost Rider Prof X. Like 2 cost Ghost Rider, that kind of thing. That was also one build that I really liked. But in general, I feel like what went wrong here was that they released Zabu as a card that was like 2 years too early to Marvel Snap. Like this card was like the amount of energy cheat. This made Sarah look embarrassing. Like this made Sarah look very embarrassing because like you cheat out 8 energy on turn 4, right? With Zabu on 3. Like the disparity is so huge. Like not having Zabu on 3 means you retreated almost every other game, but like having Zabu on 3 means you stayed no matter what. Like you can go like Zabu on 3, then you go like any 2 random 4-cost cards, so much stats with additional effects. Then on turn 5, you do the Spider-Man thing that we all love, right? And it's not just not playing cards, by the way. Spider-Man is your opponent only not playing cards. You can still supplement the lane with stuff if you need to supplement the lane with stuff. And yeah, I mean, playing a 2/3 Spider-Man it's just crazy. So this deck obviously has less power than the Surfer deck, right? Just looking at the cards. But what it lacks in power is straight up just makes it up for it in terms of like playing more things more quickly just because of Zabu. And it has like the inevitable like lockout potential as well with the Spider-Man Ant-Man thing. So this one and Surfer, I think very easy. Either one can be top one, but like I honestly cannot decide between both of them.
This is better than Surfer.
So
I immediately put Zabu at number 1 when I saw this list.
Yeah.
The issue with this deck that saved it from being, I think, as commonly seen as Surfer was just that Absorbing Man was a relatively new card at the time. Darkhawk was a relatively new card. They were both still Series 5. They weren't that easy to obtain. Like this, I didn't have the cards for this deck when it first came out. And that's part of why I remember hating that month so much. I remember sitting at a car place getting my tires changed, like having to wait for like 45 minutes, and just like I was like, I'm just not going to play a video game right now, because I played like 2 games, and both the games I got Zabu'd into 4-drop Spider-Man, Absorbing Man. I'm just like, this is the most toxic thing I've ever seen. This deck just, if it drew Zabu, it just basically never lost. It was really hard. You almost had to throw to lose a game that you played a turn 3 Zabu. And I don't think I retreated on turn 3 when people snapped more in any other meta game than I did this one, because they snapped on 3. You just knew it was Zabu, and you were just like, all right, well, I don't have Zabu, or I'm not playing a Zabu deck. I should probably go. This is not worth it. And you just run. So, like it was the most dominating turn 3 play I think we've ever seen.
So what's missing from this version, just for everyone's recollection, because I had to go check the deck I hit Infinite with that season, Moon Girl.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god, I forgot.
I don't
about Moon
recall
Girl.
that much. Cause actually, I think Arrow or Leader wasn't.
Yeah, Arrow and Leader weren't there
to
for
be
me.
honest.
Or like they were nerfed by the time like a week into this existing.
Yeah,
but look, it's really
the,
hard to find pictures of old decks. Sorry.
The version I remember losing to a lot had Widow instead of Scorpion.
It runs Widow instead of Scorpion, and then it runs either like no Leader and Arrow. It runs something like Devil Dino and She-Hulk.
Oh yeah. There's that one as well. Yeah, no, but like there's also that version, the Code Deco version, which is abstract as heck, but quite cool. Like the Lady Sif Ghost Rider kind of stuff.
My version is 1/1 Sunspot, Korg, 3/2 Zabu, Mystique, Black Widow when she was 2/1, but only gave a 0. 4/6 Rockslide, 4/2 Darkhawk, 4/2 Shuri, Moon Girl, White Queen, Arrow, and She-Hulk. I didn't even bother. I didn't even bother with the Spider-Man Absorbing Man.
Oh, okay, yeah, but
no,
I just realized. Yeah, you're a nice person.
Who cares? It was easy to win.
Can I just say this might be the deck that confused me the most, because I actually saw people not playing Chavez in this deck.
Yeah.
Did you realize that this is the ultimate Chavez deck?
I didn't run Chavez in it. I didn't know yet.
Like if you have Zavu no, but I guess that was still early in Marvel Snaps, like global launch live, right? So maybe people don't really see the Chavez thing yet. But like the moment I saw this deck, right, like the 2 cards that could never leave the deck for me in my shells, I realized was Zabu and Chavez. Because like the whole point is like if you have Zabu on 3, you win. You don't have Zabu on 3, you probably don't win. So I just chucked Zabu and Chavez in every single damn one of my Zabu decks and like just went from there.
No. I agree.
Number 1 for now, and we can move on.
I would definitely say number 1.
Sure. Yeah, number 1 for now is fine.
All right. Is it number 1 for long, though, is the next question. Because the original Thanos Lockjaw, and the key cards here are, we have Quinjet, back when stones would cost 0 with Quinjet, which somehow it took us all 3 months to realize was broken. Leech to pop in and out of Lockjaw, and then, just everything else is relatively self-explanatory here. This is our first Arrow nerf. Arrow was a 5/7 win the game instead of a 5/8 win the game.
She was still so good.
Yeah. So
is this our first Chavez sighting too?
This is our first Chavez.
Yes.
Wow.
This is the one that came from Cam's Discord.
Isn't this the exact list that Harry played at the first
No, Harry played something very unique. There was like Kaza and Mbaku.
Yeah, Harry had a very weird version, but no, this is KM's Discord. Okay. Like Tori-kun played this, and a bunch of
we all played this, honestly.
But it came from like there are specific players that helped make this. That like I used to have a list.
Yeah, the Human Spider was one of the innovators of this deck.
Shockingly, he never stopped playing it. He was like, I love it so much.
Yeah.
Also, for people who don't remember,
Hasa was,
I love Hasa. Hasa's the
yeah. Hasa was the first person that made all of us realize that why were we not actually playing Devil Dino in this deck? It just it's an auto include.
Yeah.
So yeah, this deck was crazy, man. Like Lockjaw, Queen Jet Lockjaw was broken beyond broken because it didn't need any effort. You just did it, and your entire lane, even if you clog it up, was like what 30-ish stats of random rolling of random stuff.
And
This
remember,
was also
like,
when
Leech
Space
popping up.
Stone.
Yeah.
Space Stone could move out of
Space Stone,
Lockjaw.
yeah.
Oh god,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the good Space Stone, the better Space Stone.
Yeah, I
the
forgot all
broken
about
And
that.
Leech was an on review at this time, right?
Yep.
Leech was on review. So if it popped up randomly on turn 3, you that's just messed up, dude. Like
And you could
I mean,
trigger
like
Lockjaw
the
multiple times a
Magneto
turn.
stuff. Yeah, the Magneto's not even that important. It could literally be any card, and the deck would still work.
Yeah. I don't think I ran Magneto.
I played Giganto until I got Magneto. Magneto was one of the last cards I got from Series 3 too, and it was Giganto for a long time. And it was
ran
still
something
good.
else there. I don't even know what I ran. It was just some random bullshit.
There was a period that was Okoye, but that fell off really quickly.
I remember when it was Okoye for like 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okoye constantly goes into Thanos decks and then goes, wait, that's not good here. Never mind.
So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to put this above Surfer. I definitely don't think this goes above Zabu, but it's hard for me to even put this above Surfer just on consistency. I think if this deck wasn't, if Thanos didn't have that inherent like inconsistency to it over other decks, like if you drew Lockjaw in this deck as much as you drew Zabu in the Zabu deck, this would be the best deck that's ever existed in Snap. It was so broken when you drew Lockjaw, but you didn't. Like there was a lot of games where you had to win the fair way, and it made this deck not nearly as consistent as the Zabu deck. But God, I don't think there's been the original Lockjaw. Like I don't even think you can blame Thanos. The original Lockjaw was so stupid, man. The fact that it's been nerfed and it's still just its own deck is so crazy, and it's so much worse now, and it's still just broken. Like that card's crazy, man. This deck is
so.
This is better than Surfer.
I think I put this above. Okay, so here's my ranking and then my reasoning. I put this above Surfer but below Zabu. Okay, so basically this deck existed a little bit during that pre-nerf Zabu era already, but it wasn't just going crazy yet until like the Zabu nerf, I believe. So this deck personally, I feel won't be as broken as pre-nerf Zabu because pre-nerf Zabu lets you basically lets you do Spider Apps Man on the same time and your opponent cannot play the game, right? Like, if this deck doesn't specifically draw Lockjaw into stones on 4, they just get locked out by the Spider Apps Man and they can't play the game. So, like, the fair way of winning with this deck cannot beat Zabu at all. So, the only way this beats Zabu is literally Lockjaw into stones, like, on 3 or 4. So, this can outpower Surfer easily because Surfer doesn't really have like full lockout potential. But the fact that this deck just cannot beat the fact that if Zabu goes like Spider Apps Man puts this like to me like above Surfer, below Zabu. But for what it's worth though, like the moment Zabu got nerfed, right? Like this was like the tier 0. This was the tier 0 deck. Like I know we're gonna talk about Shuri eventually, but when this and Shuri were meta, in its original state, I'm 100% sure this was the better deck. Yeah, but yeah.
And I did want to make one minor note. Back we were talking about how Magneto could have been literally any card, but I forgot how good Magneto actually was back when this first came out because Surfer and Zabu were the 2 other best decks.
That's true.
Oh god, you wrecked people with Magneto. Like I think Magneto was better then than it's ever been. That was a lot of fun.
That's true.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Against
I think
the
Zabu's
entire
definitely
pool.
Yeah.
So
against the entire pool of cards, is this better than Zabu? Or the entire pool of decks? Sorry.
Like that we've currently reviewed?
No, that we're even going to look at.
Oh, we'll get there, right? Like I think Zabu is number 1, this is number 2, at least for now. I can see it ending that way, but
for now.
knows?
I can see this being dethroned, but not yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna reshuffle. Okay.
So also notable, what we're seeing is the most powerful thing in Marvel Snap is cost reduction.
Yep.
Yes.
So like
if you think about it, like Lockjaw is the ultimate cost reduction card, right? You play a 1-drop, you get a 6-drop.
Yeah.
So Lockjaw and Quinjet are both cost reduction. Zabu is cost reduction, and that's better than +3 stats. +3 scaling is going to show up again. Spoiler. And then and then we have like just good stuff, and that tends to fall to either severe cost reduction or insane scaling.
Yeah. And
that's
don't
what
forget, Surfer also ran Sarah, which is also cost reduction.
which is also cost reduction. It's just
Yeah.
Sarah's like, this is insane, right? But like when in the realm of cost reduction, Sarah is bad.
Sarah's so tame now. Yeah.
She's just a normal like fair cost reduction. She's not doing Lockjaw Quinjet for stones for 0 or Zabu's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Shuri Red Skull. This won one of the Snap Fan tournaments. Back when Shuri was 4-2, and then the next card could be played anywhere. So you just threw it on top of Cosmo, and then threw another card on top of Armor, and won. Where does this go?
First of all, I hate this list. Where's the Sauron?
It didn't run Sauron back
was...
then. It did not run Sauron because it had Cosmo. It had
back then there was no Sauron.
Yeah,
that's
it had
right.
Cosmo.
The originals, I forget that Sauron came later.
No, Sauron was out. Sauron was out.
The
because
Sauron version came later.
Yeah, it had to be. Cosmo was too important.
Yeah.
This was very broken. Okay, I don't think this beats like the OG Quinjet Thanos, but like it was up there as well because Shuri back then, I think a lot of people forgot by now. Shuri back then, you could like literally play Shuri left and play your Red Skull in the Cosmo lane. That was mad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. Like that was one of the reasons why the whole She-Hulk Taskmaster dynamic was so crazy as well. Because you could Shuri in whatever lane, and then like, okay, obviously we'll be talking about bounce later, but like the whole She-Hulk Taskmaster thing gives very bounce vibes because they don't know where your 20 power thing plus another 20 power thing is going. And there's no like sign, right? Because Shuri doesn't mean that you play Shuri on the left. You need to play cards on the left. You can totally not play anything there. Like I think the power of this deck, as much as yes, you're playing like nice curve into Shuri Red Skull Task, the power comes from the fact that you can Shuri into like big boy wherever, often behind an armor or Cosmo, and then that's it. No Shadow King. I mean, even if there was, who played Shadow King at 4-3? So like this deck was like 9. There was inevitability to this deck, which is like if they have it, you just die. It's a different kind of thing from Thanos, whereby they churn out random amounts of huge power with the Lockjaw. This one is like inevitable. Shuri on 4, and you know you're about probably dead somehow or other.
So this is still second to last, though.
Yeah, it like a lot of it's just like this deck, like like the power where it went was very unpredictable, but like it kind of has a similar problem to Zabu, where if you diagnosed early you're playing against Shuri and they snap, it's like, okay, well they have Shuri into Red Skull into this, or they have Shuri into She-Hulk into Taskmaster, I'm dead, and you can just leave, or if you can beat it,
Correct.
then you stay and you beat it. But it's just, I think like we were talking about, like the Leech and these other decks just add so much power to the decks because it gives you this huge advantage where you know your opponent can't do anything but play points, and you just get to do all these same crazy things you've been doing, whereas this is just doing its thing. It's kind of like it's similar to Surfer in that way, right? Where it's just doing its thing and it's playing a ton of points and asking, can you beat my points? And if you can't, you lose. Whereas the other decks were a lot harder to beat a lot of times because of the Leech stuff.
Well, Surfer had Cosmo, and Surfer, I guess both have Cosmo, but Surfer also had Storm and Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Well, this period, I think Red Skull was a 5-15 or so. That was like a big difference.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that this is still the second worst deck. Like, it's better than Death Wave, but I don't think it's...
For sure.
But I don't think it's better than Leech Leader.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Leech Leader, actually, because you actually fight for points effectively with your curve as well.
Leader, right?
Yeah, I know. But, like, you don't lose the early game. That's the thing. So...
See, and Shuri, again, was a Series 5, right? And you didn't see this deck nearly as much as you saw Leech Leader, but I do think... I can see putting this above Leech Leader as far as power level. I think a lot of the Leech Leader stuff is skewed because so many people played that deck.
I mean, I just think that this would get wrecked by Leech and Leader. Like, those two cards in particular would absolutely face this.
You still have Red Skull. Like
sure, but like
really
if you're
nice
Red Skulling on 5, what are you doing on 6 if you're Leech? Like, they play Leader, you played your She-Hulk.
Titania.
Yeah, I guess.
Lizard, if you didn't get to play them earlier.
I think my real question here is whether this is above Kreen of Suffer.
No.
No?
Do you think?
I'm fine with that.
Like, I don't think
No,
so.
I know it's for sure below Zabu, for sure below Thanos Lockjaw, but I can't figure out a bit about the Surfer versus
That's a really
this one.
Surfer. Like Surfer is the That's
So
kind
I
of the
could
bar,
s-
right? We figured out was like it's either above or below Surfer.
So wait, is it above Surfer? Because Surfer couldn't get to 30 points in 2 lanes.
Yeah, correct. I think that's the question that I was thinking about, which is that
I think you're all right.
30 power rate scout be flipped by like brute stuff with Surfer? I don't think consistently though.
No, and
Right.
She-Hulk was still 10, right? So 2 of the cards on here are too low. Yeah,
So brute is, let's just say brute is 3.
15.
It'll be 15 power with Surfer. So plus 6 with Red Scout 21. You need another 10 power. Oh, it's not actually easy, right? You need like a literal Maximus in that lane.
You need
as well.
all of your biggest power, and then you better have Storm and Juggernaut to win another, right? So like this is probably
And they
better
have
than
Okay,
Surfer.
I'm putting this above Surfer.
Yeah.
Just based on that.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's high. It's
Makes
higher
sense
than I
to
thought
me.
for that card. That deck. I hated that deck.
But
I didn't
the
like
deck
this
is
as well,
boring.
but,
It doesn't mean it's
Yeah, I
bad,
didn't say
right?
it's bad. It's just dull. All right.
Yeah.
All right. This is my favorite
what's
deck in the
next?
history of Snap. It's Valhalla. Thanos lane
Oh,
control back with
yeah,
2/2
this,
beast.
this was mine and Coco's thing.
Yeah, this is my favorite deck ever. Hey, how is Coco? I haven't heard from Coco in forever.
Yeah, I've heard Coco's just like chilling. It hasn't really played much Snap recently.
So yeah, this deck was completely absurd. It basically won a lane with either Spider-Man or Professor X, and then it played Valkyrie and won another lane.
Yep.
And that was that. It was the best deck it farmed Shuri Red Skull.
Yeah, that was
I
why
literally tweeted this deck saying that this is the Shuri farmer because it just farms Shuri.
And it was so fun. 2/2 beast with stones was unbelievable.
Yeah. God, I forgot about 2 cost beast. He was so fun.
Yeah. Also, Valkyrie dodges armor, which was one of the things that Shuri had going for it, right? Like you could play Red Scout in the armor lane. Yeah.
I mean,
When was this a thing?
Right,
What time frame?
right after Shuri.
Yeah. When Shuri,
I think the Quinjet was the Quinjet lockjaw thing.
It
I
was
think it was
when
nerfed already.
Quinjet
it
was
was
nerfed.
nerfed by then.
So like it,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, then we moved to the next thing. Yeah.
so sure. So
next thing, which is
in
this.
like right after Zabu was nerfed, immediately everyone was like, "Oh, Red Skull's the best thing," and Red Skull was the best thing for like 2 weeks, and then the Thanos deck happened.
Yeah.
And then
they cruelly
and then Thanos
nerfed
Lockjaw was
Quinjet
too broken.
and Space Stone.
yeah, then when they nerfed
At the same time.
yeah, they nerfed like the entire Thanos deck, but they barely touched Shuri for months. So this became
Then we had
the
to play
counter,
this.
and then they nerfed this out of existence. But they still left Shuri for another like 2 months.
Yeah.
This was the first showing of like what we have now, like in the current state of the game, whereby early Prof X was king, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yep.
you just stack a lane and you Prof. Like people didn't realize how oppressive this was right back then already,
I
because
did.
like this deck wasn't as popular. Yeah, I did as well, but like.
Oh, I definitely
And also
did.
that there was the old Spider-Man, right? Like the whole concept of this was like lock one lane, Dino solo another, done. Or like reverse big stats. Instead of playing Dino, you Valkyrie their stuff
Mhm.
with a Soul Stone or whatever. I think I even had Blue Marvel in here instead of one of these cards because like it
Yeah,
helps
'cause
you get
that-
a bit over the top.
That auto wins
Yeah.
you the Valkyrie lane too.
It was instead of
if
Daredevil.
against other decks.
Yeah, instead of Daredevil,
Yeah.
I didn't really like
I didn't
Daredevil
like
as a
Daredevil
card,
very
but
much
yeah,
either.
this one, can we realistically put this above Shuri just cause it farms Shuri? I feel like it has
No.
worse matchups than Quinjet Lockjaw.
So it beats
Yeah.
the crap out of Surfer. Like bad.
That's true.
Surfer does
I guess,
not
yeah.
like having its lanes locked down, and Valkyrie is hilarious against Surfer.
Okay, so are we okay? So we put this against above Surfer. I can get it, but like, do we put it above?
It's better than
just
Shuri.
because we beat Shuri.
I actually disagree with it going above Surfer. I think just on base power level, because that's the question, right? It's not like whether it
Okay,
beats those
true.
decks, but it's like we're looking at the base power level of the decks. This is a Professor X deck. It was one of the first, and it was really fun. But like this is not like this deck is not nearly as powerful as Zabu. It's not nearly as
So-
powerful as Surfer. Like yeah,
Well, it's not
it
nearly as
beats
powerful
Surfer.
as Zabu. But like,
Yeah.
so the thing it did, I think what we're missing here with like that outlook is that Spider-Man and Professor X meant that it was insane. It wasn't a Professor X deck, right? Like the way we think of Professor X decks now is like that's a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
Spider-Man
This
was
was more
so
similar
much
to
better,
the Zab. Yeah.
right? Like
This was more
Yeah, of
similar to the
course.
Zabu
Mhm.
Absorbing Man thing, right? Because you X one lane, you Spider-Man another, and then you just did whatever you wanted at the third lane, and
Yeah.
that generally was good
Actually,
enough.
Wanna put this like one below Shuri? Okay, but hear me out. I do
think
think
it's
this
not Shuri.
farms Shuri, but this was good because this was the byproduct of Shuri being good. Like, I think that at that point in time, there are a lot of decks that could be this. Like, this deck loses super hard to Killmonger, by the way. Like, if they Killmonger you on curve, like, you don't have enough to secure the prof lane, like, at all. So, like, I don't know. I feel like this has like more bad matchups, but it has that one very good Shuri matchup. So I think this could be lower than Shuri, but I'm not sure if it's higher than Surfer.
See, that's what I guess that's my point with this one is I feel like it's just a lower power level overall like deck. This is a Time Stone. It's a Time Stone Professor X deck. This is a deck that struggled really hard when you didn't draw Spider-Man and Professor X. Like
if
that's the thing is like
W told us to run Psylocke in it months earlier. Psylocke would have been so good.
Psylocke would be good
deck.
here actually.
We just didn't know. No one thought of it until W did 3 months later. Yeah.
Yeah.
God, Psylocke would have been like. Can you imagine how much more oppressive this deck would have been?
Shall we put this below Surfer first?
I think it's
below Surfer in the entire
I'm
pool
outvoted.
of decks we're talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
It's my favorite deck ever, so like I guess I'm just too high on it. Fine.
Yeah, I love this deck as well. Just that, like, I feel like it's just one of those decks that like was really good because it was around during the time where we had.
I think very few decks in the history of Marvel Snap can deal with double lane lock. Like the sheer amount of times that you could go Professor X on 4 and then Spider-Man on 5 and just be like, oh,
but it did it so much less consistently than the Moon Girl Zabu decks did.
Yes, okay, then the Moon Girl Zabu deck, sure. Then what is arguably the best deck in the history of Snap, sure. But like it's still the second most consistent way to do that ever.
Yeah. But I would still say you did it in what, probably like 10% of games?
Oh, I think it's way more than that. I think it was way more than that. But because don't forget that like you would go Stone Beast, like you would go Stone Beast George. You drew so much.
Yeah.
Like this is the ultimate Mind Stone as a Snap, right? Because if you could Mind Stone and then beast it and Mind Stone again, you were guaranteed the Time Stone on 3.
Yeah.
All right.
I miss those days. Anyway.
So
the only stats deck. I also love this deck.
This deck had one of the most absurd win rates online ever.
Yeah, it was completely insane.
This is just like one of the original good card decks, right? Like where you're literally just playing all good cards. Like the deck is just all nice static cards with really good effects, and you just win a lot of games that way. I personally love when decks like this are good because it's like it's just a pile of good stats, but I've never felt like this deck was oppressive in the way some of the other decks we've talked about have been. This is the first sighting of the 2-cost Zabu, right? Where it only reduced by 1. It's still a great deck. It's still a deck that did powerful things, but it was not what I even think would say like Surfer was in its heyday.
Yes. I think this is the worst deck so far.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. I think this might be worse than Death Wave also. Yeah. Like, okay, obviously Death Wave is more inconsistent than this, but like in terms of like low roll potential versus high roll potential, this deck has like so honestly this deck has like 0 high roll potential. This deck is not a high roll deck. This deck is just play cards on curve and hope it works out deck. So like I agree with what Peaceful said. Like this deck, it was around, but it never really defined anything, right? It was just there. The deck was just there. So not trying to say Black Bolt into Stature then wasn't good, but like it didn't really like this was so beatable, right? This was one of the first like common decks that people played that had a high win rate, and yet it was so beatable as well. So I think this deck easily the lowest one on our list so far, unless of course anyone has a differing opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just fine. It's just good cards. But it's just like
it's
fair.
It's
playable.
It's fair, and we're comparing it to like literally every other deck on the list so far has done something that is fundamentally unfair.
Yeah.
Like I think SD nerfed the whole Black Bolt Stature thing just because it was just overplayed.
So annoying. It was so annoying. Like
I wish
it wasn't even like fantastic.
Put at least one of them back. Come on.
Especially since Stature.
I'll take the 1/7 Stature. Yeah,
me too.
I'll take 5/7 and 1/7.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me a lot of like the current Shuri deck, where it's just like it's solid, it's a good deck, but it wasn't broken.
Yep.
All right, the original Iron Patriot.
Oh, I like how we showed this first before Silk, because this was actually in my collection way before I did Silk.
Yeah, this is the first one. So what happened was this is the Hitmonkey month. I remember this very well. And everyone's like, Hitmonkey's gonna be great, but they also made Sandman a 5/5 at the same time. And for like 3 days, everyone's like, Sandman! And then Patriot beats the face off Sandman.
Yeah,
And so,
because of just like the stats.
but we
I'm
also
gonna-
may have a new worst deck.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something maybe a little controversial, but I don't even know if we should be talking about this deck. Like, it's fine.
Look, it was the
I
best
don't- I
deck in
don't
the
know.
game for a while. It's every deck that was
For,
the best
like-
deck in the game for a while.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, but like, I feel like this was
This
only
never reached the Forge Brute app status
No.
though, which we will talk
Yeah.
about later. I think this
Yeah.
never reached there. This one way more vulnerable to Enchantress than Forge Brute apps, which is a talking point for later. I think this is the worst one on the list currently.
Yep.
by a long margin, like by a wide margin. I think. Like
Yeah.
this,
I looked
is
at the
just-
list
in terms of
and wondered why it was here.
It's
be
here
honest.
because it
Yeah,
was
in
the
terms of
best.
consistency.
No, I get it.
Like I
It
literally
just
said,
doesn't seem to
here-
compete with the others.
yeah.
This-
What was
this
it
deck-
the best deck in the game for a while? Yes, that's all. That was the only criteria I had.
So, like, it was a combination of things, though, right? Like you said, Sandman was very popular, and then it's also just very straightforward to play, right? It's like Electro Ramp to me. Like, this is a better version of Electro Ramp where you know exactly what to do every turn.
Mhm.
Like, where you play your cards with this deck actually doesn't even matter as much as normal decks because Debris, Doctor Doom, Brood, like all these Mr. Sinister, like most of your lanes are going to be pretty full anyway. So like you can make plenty of mistakes with card placement and still like this is without a nicer way to say it that I can think of off the top of my head. This is a noob deck. This is something you can pick up if you have these cards and you're not super familiar with playing Marvel Snap and post a good win rate. Hence having one of the best win rates in the game for a while. Like it's just very simple to play.
Yeah.
I do think this beats Leech Leader though, but like I won't put it above the list of like above Leech Leader, but I do think this beats Leech Leader simply because if you have Patreon 3 and they leech you, everything else gets buffed as well.
Leech
so-
Leader
so-
ran Enchantress.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Okay, then probably not then. Yeah.
Well, remember, this isn't a direct comparison, right? We're not saying which deck can
Yeah.
beat which, but it's
Well,
more
it
like,
matters if
I think-
if it, against the field, right? So like it
Yeah.
does matter to some extent. It's just not the only thing we're looking at. All right,
Oh, I like this.
it's
I
time
think
for
this is-
Lamby's favorite deck ever.
No, but the one I played was no IW, but still similar eras, yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
That was the swing spot. There's like 7. I had a bunch of different versions. I just picked
Yeah.
one randomly. I didn't care enough.
Yeah,
Like
it's fine.
whatever for the last spot, right? This is the completely broken kitty that got +2 power every time.
yeah.
Yeah, and the monkey was
one
at
-2 hood instead of -3. Hitmonkey is
Yeah.
a 2/0. Beast is a 2/2.
This
Um,
deck was so gross.
This deck was kept honestly under. Okay, I wouldn't say under wraps, but it was kept under control for the longest time because of public sentiment, which was a little bit my fault as well. Because
Yeah.
I thought this was bad
I remember you
into
saying that.
Sandman decks.
And it was
Little
not.
did I know, after just one day of testing, this completely obliterates Sandman if you know what you're doing. Because
Oh yeah.
on the turn they play Sandman, right? You just go like Monkey Mysterio and they play a 5/4, you play like 14 stats, and then you just win.
So
And like there's so many ways of offloading stats in this deck. Like I feel this deck is like beta Sarah deck. Like I've never played beta by the way, but KM Best keeps telling me about the beta Sarah decks and how it just like throws points everywhere.
Yeah.
This is like that basically. What this does is effectively you get such cheap like points and you can allocate them wherever you want. And the power of doing that is that like you can like look at what your opponent did first. It's like very Sarah-esque without actually playing Sarah. Like you look at where the stuff is for your opponent, and then you look at your hand. You're holding a 1/10 kitty. You're holding a 2/0 monkey with a Mysterio. You have a bishop and an Angela on board. And you're just like, how do I lose, right?
Yeah.
Like, because you know exactly where you need to put everything, and the art is already on the board. So it's very Sarah-esque without actually having to play Sarah.
Yeah, the Iron Man, which was, I believe, Lammy's originated that, right? In the bounce list. That was the
No, I
key
grabbed it from
piece.
W, but just that he didn't
Oh.
play it.
No,
He
it
didn't
was
play it as
W.
much as I did
Yeah.
in the end. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough. Well, either way, whoever, like, that was the genius tech that took this from being like never able to beat the Sandman style decks to like, you just didn't really care that much. I agree. Like, I
Also,
think,
the Iron Man stuff just solos Shuri Red Skull.
Yep.
But yeah, anyway.
yeah. So my favorite thing about this deck was Beast was nerfed, and everyone went, "Oh my god, Bounce is dead." I played it that day. I had a 90% win rate in the 90s and just went infinite. And I was like, I don't think
turns
this
out
deck
Beast
is
was
worse.
still good.
Yeah, I don't think this got much
Beast
worse.
was too good. He
Yeah.
was too good before the nerf.
Look, I want Beast to be a 2/2 again.
I missed 2/2
I would want to, but then there'll be
okay.
Havoc, there'll be Mayhem, and
Yeah.
I
No, it
don't
was
want a
too good.
1-2 piece because the game will literally collapse.
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Where
This
So-
one.
I mean, it's
This
better
one
than
this one's
I w-
a
better than
similar
Shuri.
issue.
I would say better than Patriot,
Oh.
better than
so
the Black Bolt one, right? For sure.
yeah. So let's start with Surfer. Surfer's our good place to start. Is this ahead or behind Surfer?
It's a similar style with the Surfer, right? Where it's like a
It's
it's like
very
a turn
similar
5/6
style.
combo-ish deck where
Sure,
you're,
but it
you're
goes
just throwing out a ton of
way
points.
higher.
It goes way higher. Yes, this one
Yeah,
goes
this is
way
above Surfer.
higher. I think this is above Surfer.
I would say for sure above Surfer. How high does it go though? This
So
didn't
the next
really
deck above
lose to that
Surfer
much.
is Shuri, like
Oh, it's
original
definitely
Shuri.
above Shuri. I would say it's definitely above Shuri. This deck did not. Shuri lost to more things than this did.
Oh, that's true.
I
Yeah,
think.
Shuri lost to this. Yes. Shuri lost to this so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I think this is.
So
this
now
has
it's
got to
the
be.
Thanos
Old
Lockjaw.
Shuri lost to this?
Yeah, old Shuri does lose to this. Like,
Yeah,
this
Iron Man.
flips the Red Skull lane so easily.
Yep.
So it's just 30.
Also, you have
well,
randomly
30
Shang
wasn't that
sometimes.
much power for this deck, right?
Yeah.
Like your non-Iron Man
It's
lane
crazy.
hit 30 sometimes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. This deck was.
So it's this or Thanos Lockjaw right now, right? That's
I
where
think
the
it's
conversation
I
third.
think Thanos Lockjaw beats this.
Yeah. I think this is
Are you
third.
sure?
And it. Yeah.
How?
I'm quite sure Thanos Lockjaw is scarier than this. Yeah.
Okay.
Well. Yeah. I think just.
I just don't think Thanos
on
Lockjaw
power
could
level
get tall
alone.
enough.
I don't think it's just about that. It's just that
Turns off your
like
hand.
any occurrence of random leech popping from Lockjaw, you lose on the
Yep.
spot.
Hang on,
Yep.
what, Yeti?
It just turns off your hand on turn 6. Or
Yeah.
actually, when
But-
the leech
but
comes out. just
since
turns
when does but that okay? When the leech comes out is the issue. Because if leech
I
happens
don't
on
think
turn
it really
4,
mattered that much. As long as you hit either
Yeah.
Kitty or hit Monkey, you usually won.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
So
I
this
think
is
one thing we
third?
need to remember about Thanos Lockjaw
Or Iron Man.
One thing we need to remember about Thanos Lockjaw is that like you know sometimes you just talk about that and like that one particular combo and you like think that's it. Like Thanos Lockjaw was really just Thanos and Lockjaw. So Lockjaw plus stones. Like the deck was that power level because of Lockjaw plus the stones. And
Yeah.
like whatever byproduct of what happens after stuff comes out of the Lockjaw is like I think something we should consider when we think of its power level. So yeah, like you literally just play the whole game just to do that thing.
Yep.
So,
Does this win over Thanos' job because of consistency?
I think it's below.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is a lot more consistent.
It is more consistent, yes,
But I think it loses
it's
to more
below.
things, and I don't know.
yeah.
I
What is
can't
it-
think of a deck other than original Zabu
This
that was
loses
more.
to lockdown stuff so hard though. Like
Yeah.
I never found that.
Yeah.
You always said that, and I never thought that was true. Like, unless they can get double lockdown, like, I just went so tall in my other two lanes, I didn't care.
so I would like to agree with you also, but like
And,
I'm
like,
only
and-
agreeing
and-
with you because I know
And Bishop.
yeah. Yeah, as in I'm agreeing with you because like I know what to do with this deck, but like 90% of people lose to lockdown with this deck. So like
Yeah.
I still feel like
I guess. I just...
yeah. I still
This
feel like
also
lockdown might
remember
be
this
a
was back
problem.
when Wave was a very common.
Wave was so
card
easy to
that
beat.
did the
Wave was
thing that
so
it used to
easy
do.
beat. Wave was
And-
always so
and-
easy to beat. You just went off on 5.
Yeah, I also completely agree with you there, but like and no one else feels most
Beating
people don't
both,
feel the
like
same way.
you.
So.
I always found with this deck, you could easily beat Wave, you could easily beat Sandman. Beating both in the same game was really difficult. That's just,
true.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
that's what I.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The Sandman deck needs to go like wave into Sandman instead
Yeah.
of being greedy and go wave into Doom. When the moment they go wave into Doom, they lose. They need to
Yep.
go wave into Sandman straight up. Yeah.
Okay.
But
No,
anyway,
you always drop Sandman as early as possible.
So,
I think it's slightly below Thanos Lockjaw.
fine. I don't agree, but
This deck's
fine.
great. Being the third best
Very
deck
slightly.
ever is a very good place to be.
Fine.
That deck was
Yeah.
fantastic.
All right,
For now.
so we are now at 10 decks on the list, which means every deck we add to the list is going to eliminate something. The default Galactus, I think.
I don't even think this makes the cut. I gotta
I
be
mean,
honest.
so it just has to make where we are now. So it's obviously below Surfer. Let's start with Thanos Valhalla. Is this worse or better than Thanos Valhalla?
Was
okay.
Yes,
Right,
by a
like-
lot.
Thanos Valhalla is a lockdown deck.
Yeah.
And Thanos and Loki already sorry, not Loki. Galactus already sometimes just loses to itself because it gets locked out by locations, and then you're playing against a lockdown deck. So.
Leech leader above Galactus, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
By a lot, I would say.
Which means we're at only stats.
No, we're at Deathwave.
Wait, what? Yeti, what? Go.
Deathwave is after Leech Leader.
Oh, Deathwave. You're right.
Like, isn't this just a worse Deathwave? A deck that has to draw its cards in a very specific order, but then sometimes when it does it, it still doesn't win. Like, I don't know. Like this Galactus, especially like when it was a more common deck, was just not very good. People just didn't like it.
6-7 it was 6-7 Galactus, right?
No, this is the last 6-2.
Oh, 6-2 already. I can't remember when 6-7 Galactus was a thing. There was probably some.
When was I can't believe this was ever the best deck in the game for any period of time.
So there was that period where Browday won like tournaments with it and stuff, and like it was.
That felt a lot more like a meta call because nobody was prepared.
Well, there was just no answer. Like they nerfed like all the answers, right? Like they pulled Arrow out of the meta, and, like all the like stuff that could go tall enough early. You know what I mean? Like, and then Null was just game winning, and you still had the Spider-Man play. Spider-Man was a 5-4 at this point, but it was still like.
This did still have the turn 4 Galactus.
I ranked this deck very low, actually.
Yeah, I think this might be my lowest deck so far.
Lower?
Is it lower than the Patriot?
Iron Patriot?
Is it lower than the Patriot?
I think it's better than Iron Patriot. But at this point,
I think it's better than the Patriot. Also,
at this point, we're debating things that aren't making the final list. So whatever.
It's
I
cute,
think
you can cut the
Patriot if you want.
Like,
but
to me, the Patriot is the easiest card from the list ever.
All right.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. I can't argue with
that. Where are we
that.
putting it?
Number 10.
Second to last. Okay.
Yeah.
So it won't be here long because I think it just got kicked off.
I think it's getting kicked off now.
Together with Bounce, I remember.
Yeah.
This was nowhere near Bounce. People kept telling me this was as good as Bounce, and this had no shot against Bounce.
Oh no, this is 100% unfavored into Bounce. That's why we're doing Creator Clash. I brought Bounce and not this.
Everyone,
very simple.
Everyone kept being like, "Oh, that lockjaw." And I was like, "What? You have no chance. Would you like to play that matchup?"
Yeah, let's go ahead and go.
Like it was just like, "Oh, that Hulk's like a 20." I'm like, "Great, good for you."
My
Enjoy
build
my
of this deck
35 power lanes.
Yeah. My build of this deck had Wave in it because no one ever expected Wave out of Lockjaw, and that won me so many games.
I ran Wave
against Bounce.
Oh yeah, the Mongo was my inclusion, my contribution to the list. Yeah, because like this deck had like 0 early game, right? So you needed to invalidate some early game.
Yeah,
and like I didn't play Wave because to me the most important thing that you needed to do on this game in this deck is play Jane on 5. Like it's too much swing. But yeah, no, it's a small difference. This one I think is above the only stats led deck.
So wait, is it above Deathwave? It's above Deathwave, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Leech Leader, I don't think it's better than.
No.
Wow. Actually, I'm not sure. Like the moment I get Lockjaw on 3, how does Leech Leader ever win?
Yeah.
Okay. Fair. Oh, yeah, fair.
Impossible for Leech Leader to win there.
Okay, I could see that. So are we above Thanos Valhalla? Because I would assume not.
It's also
what Thanos Valhalla does is invalidate big dumb guys.
Okay, but Thanos Valhalla's weaker. Like this particular build is scary because you have Monger. Like this exact build.
Sure, but so like that's an exact. You know what I mean? Like in a head-to-head, sure, but like, and even then, like Valkyrie is still going to do a decent job of winning those games.
Yeah, true. All right, I think this is below Thanos Valhalla.
Okay.
I can agree with that.
So Evolve
but I'm
the
biased,
Jaw.
so I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
I loved when Spider-Ham went in this deck.
Yeah, that was so
same,
gross.
I guess.
Like original Spider-Ham was a
I remember I was like, it's...
original Spider-Ham was a dumb card.
So is this number 5 on the list?
This is number 7.
Yeah.
7. Oh,
so
okay,
this is a good time to reread. So Yeti, can you give us our top 10 so far?
Yes, we got Zabu, followed by Thanos Lockjaw, Bounce, Shuri, Surfer, Thanos Valhalla, Evo Lockjaw, Leech Leader, Deathwave, Darkhawk Stats, Galactus, and Iron Patriot. I guess I went...
Yeah, you can get rid of the number 11. They no longer exist.
Okay, cool.
All right.
You can move on, right?
I like that so far. I think that list is pretty solid.
Time for W's only. The W Thanos list that look, this deck is like clearly the worst Thanos list here, except that it's the only one that has Psylocke.
It's the only relevant one of its time, sadly.
Yeah.
This was before Silk, really?
Yep.
Oh, I
According
didn't
to like,
remember that.
I literally found that at this point we're just me scrolling through KM's Twitter feed, so I could see literally like if it happened in that order, then that's when it was tweeted.
Okay. I think this deck was like the only viable way to play Thanos then, but it didn't really define too much per se.
So-
I mean, it made people remember that Professor X on 4 was insane, but like,
It was a tournament deck.
So the
Yeah.
thing about this list in particular is that it really preyed on like what the metagame was going through at the time, which if I remember correctly was when, oh gosh, that was after there had been a bunch of nerfs. I remember this deck popped up because
Mhm.
everybody was trying
Bounce was still around.
that might have
Yes.
been, maybe that's what it was. This was when, okay, that's what it was.
This was quite good into bounce. As good as
This
anything
was
was.
very good into bounce. Like this destroyed bounce.
Very good into
Didn't
bounce.
Because you had
destroy
Cosmo
bounce,
to
just
lock
good
up one
into
lane, you played Devil Dino behind the Cosmo, they couldn't play their Hitmonkey there, and you just won because you had Professor X for another lane. The Claw Tech is what I always think of W for. I know y'all are loving on him for Psylocke, but he's like, other people played Claw, but he really like, he was the one, he's always played Claw in his Thanos stuff.
I played Claw on my Thanos decks from day one.
I love Claw.
I'm a giant Claw fan. So Claw was in my my second season Infinite, that ramp deck I mentioned. So I've like always had a soft spot for Claw because people do Doom math and then you just win with Claw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I hate
Where do we
about
rank this?
Miss Marvel, I love Miss Marvel as a card, but the thing I hate most about her is how she's invalidated Claw.
Yep.
Poor Claw.
True. Yeah. No one plays Claw anymore because of Miss Marvel.
Why not
And
both?
you shouldn't. That's true.
Where do we rank this?
It can't be above Valhalla, right? Valhalla is just a better deck.
I think Valhalla is better than this, yeah.
So then we're talking about this in Evolved Lockjaw. I would assume Evolved Draw is above this.
I would put Evolved Lockjaw above this. That was a...
Yeah, I'll put Jaw above this.
If only for the tiebreaker of these decks existed at the same time, and this had a horrible matchup into that.
That's fair. Leech Leader?
You hated playing. I think for its time, Leech Leader was a much better deck.
Sure, but if we're playing these into each other,
fine,
right?
fine.
Like I
For
think
its
Leech
time,
Leader
yeah,
is
fine.
I think even like if you just played these into each other, Leech Leader
I wonder
probably
how.
wins.
I think OG Leader would be one of the best cards in the game right now. I think I think you're undercutting that a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
True.
I would put Leech Leader above this, and it pains me to do it, but
So
that's my personal opinion.
So this is now number 9.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna call. Can we call this W Thanos? Because I think he deserves the credit.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
sure.
Look, the Psylocke tech
That makes sense.
literally is something that is in every Thanos deck from then till the end of time, and
it defined this archetype.
and it should have been in all of the earlier Thanos decks that we didn't think of.
Yeah, and it made it. Well, it made it in and out of a lot of lists before then. I feel like, but he's the one
Yes,
who
but not
always has
Thanos.
run it.
It just it wasn't in Thanos. It just literally was not seen in Thanos. It was in other decks. Like I've always
Actually, for what it's worth, I think Psylocke is not a good card, but it supports this style very well.
So-
like it supports the 5 strategy very well.
I've always thought that one of the things that Ramp could do, Sandman Ramp could do, and I did it. It was in my original one. Is run Psylocke on as a 3, so you can go something like Sandman into Devil Dino.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it works perfectly fine.
Okay.
All right. What the hell is this? Oh, we know this list. Lamby, tell us about your list.
Oh, this one was okay. So history behind this one, literally on the biggest like Spider-Man patch. This was when Spider-Man first became this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Spider-Man became this. I turned on the stream. We cooked this. This was literally 11 out of 12 cards from the first version we ever started, and it was like we got lucky also. I think we got it right on the first time. So this deck was a byproduct.
It was Nightcrawler, not Vision.
Yes,
I covered that deck.
This deck was
right away.
A byproduct. I mean, this deck became number 1 because it just invalidated the previous like sort of like top tier deck, which was Darkhawk, right? Darkhawk Zabu. Darkhawk Zabu at that point in time ran Enchantress and Shang, and this was my sales pitch, which made a lot of sense, which was like this deck cannot be Shang, cannot be Enchantress, and I mean you can literally make your Angela a 2/8 and Craven a 2/8, which was something that we actively were trying to do. and Zabu Darkhawk just gets like dead cards. Also, this deck I feel like also has quite a bit of skill agency because firstly, the Silk itself is a card. Like you guys think Werewolf was a headache, right? It's a headache now, right? But Silk is more of a headache in the sense that like you have like less control over Silk in general. So I feel like this deck just puts a lot of like basically like learning this deck like puts you in a very favorable position versus firstly like the Darkhawks, the mirrors, right? Playing this better in the mirrors is like it's quite evident. And at that point in time, I feel like this deck was just in a very strong. There was no real wombo combo deck in that era, like this era. Like if there was like a Phoenix Force thing during this era, this would get crushed by that because this is just like fair stats on curve into more stats that cannot be shanked. So like the average power on the board for each lane, this one is like between like 15 to 20. Nothing too crazy, but it's just like it's uncounterable stats, you know. And of course, Legion came out here around this time as well, I think. Legion fit perfectly into here in the mid-range deck. Captain Marvel that time was pretty good of card, plus move synergy as well with Kraven. So everything just kind of clicked with this deck. Like I know I like popularized this, but like the everything was already just there. Like it just kind of clicked, and the Spider-Man like turning into a 3/5 just kind of pushed this into like overdrive a little bit, because that's another thing you play on curve to supplement your Kraven, your Angela, like unclogging your lane so you can play more stuff into Angela. Like everything just worked. Like a lot of people that picked this up during that time till this day tell me this is their favorite deck and favorite meta of like since they started playing. And I can understand, right? There's a lot of like synergies and there's player agency, and yeah, what more can I say? It's one of my biggest brainchilds and contributions to the game.
And it has almost no chance of making this list.
Sadly.
It's just too fair.
Well, okay. What I was gonna say is it's like the good cards deck we look like with Black Bolt and Stature, right? It's just better. Like it's a better version of that deck.
Oh yes, this is better than Black Bolt Stature.
Oh yeah, it's that same deck but better because you have the move agency, and then you also just I think your stats get taller overall.
Yeah.
So, but that's already not on the list.
Oh, it's already not on the list. Okay, so we can put it higher than Black Bolt Stature, but still not make the list.
Is it better than Deathwave?
No.
Nah. Deathwave Hyrule obliterates this.
Yeah. Deathwave Medium Roll obliterates this, right? Like,
yeah. True. Deathwave into just either Death or She-Hulk probably wins.
Original Arrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay. I do love this deck though.
It was such a good explanation, only to land at 11.
Yeah, no, I kind of get it, because like this was like good for its time, but if you compare this to every other broken deck on the list, like this is a fair deck. Like this was good for its time, but it was good fair. It was literally the Black Bolt Stature deck, but slightly better, which is like not fair, not unfair at all, you know. So
and those decks are just the definition of like low ceiling, high floor, right? Like they just always do kind of the same thing, but like that kind of the same thing isn't going to beat most decks like super high roll. That's just how they're built. But they're built to do their thing more consistently, therefore your win rate is higher. But it's a great deck. Like that's not to take anything away from this.
I'd argue Marvel Snap players want a meta where something like this or the Darkhawk deck is the best deck.
I agree.
Yeah, they enjoy this kind of stuff. Like if you realize they really enjoy this kind of stuff. Also, this is like, okay, this I agree doesn't make the list. Even though this doesn't make the list, but this is like the best fair deck the game has had in a long time.
I agree with that.
Right.
So hang on, one more thought. I don't think Glenn likes this kind of deck.
Why do you think that?
Okay.
Because the cards he designs specifically are like, how do we do the most unfair thing? And like do giant flashy combos, right? And like when he does make a deck like this, he's like, how can I nerf 5 pieces in it?
The funny thing is, this deck's like 12 cards. I don't think SD tested these 12 cards. Like, you get what I'm trying to say? Like, they tested like certain shells, but I'm pretty sure they didn't test like this. Yeah,
they don't go as hard on some of the synergies as the player base does, which I think is really weird. That would be like the first thing I would do as a game developer is I would like see how far I could push something. Like when they said they didn't try the super all-in Loki shells, I was like, why? That's the first thing I thought of.
So Loki's not fair. we all thought Loki was going to be bad. We all, like, I specifically asked all three of you before Loki came out, where do you rank Loki? And everyone's like, Loki will probably be fine. I know exactly.
Wait, hold up.
Yeah.
I need to check. I know I ranked him above average, 100%.
You, and the day after Loki came out, after your first day of testing him, your answer was he's good, but not tier 1.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
I
fine.
promise.
I'll live with that one.
No, because I was wrong too, and I think like that kind of thing is
I was very
instructive,
wrong.
right? But so Safety is the only person who had Loki number 1 that month, and he was like, "You're all insane." He was like, "You're all insane." He the first day had the list. It was like the list that we all built off of forever. It was like the exact core of the list. It's like Quinjet and Collector, and then Coulson and like Loki, and then like he had Infinite like 2 hours with it, and then it was just it was insane.
Was stupid.
It was insane. So, but like, okay, they don't. So the first thing I do, like for me now, how I've gotten better at evaluating cards, I will still always miss Loki. Because what I do, and the reason I knew Annihilus was good, is because I was like, okay, how does Annihilus fit into Darkhawk good stuff? How does Annihilus fit into Bounce? Because you just, like, most cards don't create new archetypes, and the ones that do, it's, like, impossible to tell if they're good or not until you play that new archetype.
Yeah.
And there are some cards that are very obviously just new archetypes, right? Like High Evo, Thanos.
Well, but even Annihilus looked like a new archetype, right? But, like, it's just, okay, so maybe he's a new archetype, and I can't evaluate whether that archetype is good. I have no way to tell. But I can look and go, if I can generate 28 power on turn, 27 power on turn 4 and 5 in a Darkhawk deck, that's going to be powerful.
Yeah.
And, like, that was my, like, level up in card evaluation.
Can I just say one more thing since we were talking about Lammy's list? I freaking love Silk, and I was preaching that Silk was a great card from like the moment they spoiled her, and like it was so validating to see like someone come out like almost immediately, like just within a couple days, with such a good list for Silk after Spider-Man. I know it was after Spider-Man, but like
this was like 2 months later.
Was it that long? Man,
Yeah.
my memory is getting bad. But anyway, like I've been preaching Silk was good since she came out. When this deck finally made her like a tier 1 deck, I was like, I've been telling y'all she's a good card. Like her downside is sometimes an upside. Like that's a good card.
You know what's the thing about this deck? Like this could have been like created like before the Spider-Man change. It's just that no one looked at it. I didn't even bother looking at it until the Spider-Man changed. I was like, all right, let's do some move thing.
Well, you know what started was Owl started winning tournaments with like weird janky move shit, so we knew there was something there.
Yeah, exactly.
Was this deck good for your average player, or was it one of those decks with a high?
I think they enjoyed it as well. I think the average player enjoyed it as well, to be honest.
Like,
the average player tells me that they love this deck like the most, so
I'm telling you, the Snap meta wants like everything to be relatively even. Right?
Yeah, they want Black Bolt Statues and Dark Hawk Zabus. Yeah, I get it.
I think it's a good thing to have in the metagame. Like these types of decks are both fun to play and they're skill testing, and it makes you feel like you have more agency. Like when decks get too tall and too crazy, like it doesn't feel like what you do matters that much. It's like, oh well, did my opponent do their crazy thing, and is it crazier than my crazy thing? Like that's less fun.
So I lost with a whatchamacallit, Hella deck that went off the other day just because they had like a blob, and then my other power didn't go exactly right. And the blob was like, I'm bigger than your Infinite and your Magneto and your whatever other giant thing went there. And it's just like, well, I played complete bullshit and you played complete bullshit and your complete bullshit won. Like, I don't know, is that, like, that's not, to me at least, as fun as this.
I agree.
Like, the numbers got too big.
It all has
it's not.
Yeah, it all has its place, right?
Yes.
But when that's like most of the metagame, like it gets a lot less fun to me.
Agreed.
Alright, so
Brood
this
me.
deck.
Brood me, dude.
This deck. I hate this deck.
Oh yeah.
This is the Brood Absorbing Man for the
It's my most hated deck. My most hated good deck in the game, actually.
I still I think Zabu was mine.
Is this deck how good is this deck though, like really compared to the other decks we've looked at?
Not very.
I agree.
Okay, so this deck has a God curve and nothing else. Like if you look at the deck, right? Like you actually just need to look at Forge, Brute, and Abs,
Mhm.
and then you realize that like if you don't draw that, the rest of the deck will never like survive.
Mhm.
Like I know I sound a bit biased, right? But I'm not, because like I actually reverse engineered this deck like to see why it's the best, and I quickly came to the conclusion that like nothing mattered other than Forge, Brute, Abs. You can put like 8 other cards and then
Mhm.
just play Forge, Brute, Abs, and it will work. And Chavez, of course.
Yeah, like these are probably the 8 best other cards, but it doesn't really matter.
Like this is the deck that we like. I know I saw somewhere on Twitter that said like this loses to this is a Patriot deck, so it loses to Eng and Rogue. But this is the furthest thing from a Patriot deck. This is the thing that you bring to beat the Darkhawk deck with the Shank and the Eng that does it better than Silk Smooth. Because this puts out more stats than Silk Smooth, and obviously this dies to Shadow King. By that point, no one cares about Shadow King. So this is the deck that you put so much stats on the board so quick, which is even faster than Silk Smooth, that the Darkhawk deck just cave. So it's really about like Forge into Brute into Abs, man, and then you on turn 5 and 6 you just figure out what else you want to play on curve and you just win.
Yeah.
That's basically the deck.
However, this is still number 11. Is this better than
I
Death
think
It
Wave?
still doesn't make the list.
It's not better than Death Wave, is right? Like Death Wave is the bottom of our list.
No.
Although it
Death
is time.
Wave-
It is time to part with Death Wave.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Well, these are the last
Okay.
decks. This is the last deck. See? Oh wait, no, there's one more. What the fuck did I put this here for? Whatever.
This first.
Yeah. We don't need to talk about
For what
the
it's
last.
worth, the Infinite deck.
Oh, this is just old shit I
the
didn't
Infinite was
delete.
the last one?
No, we've got shit I didn't delete because I messed up my slideshow. Ignore those.
Alright, so
They will be
is this
gone
one,
by
right?
the time anyone but us sees them.
Okay.
So we're just the last two we're looking at are
The last two
Loki,
are these two. Mhm.
Yeah. Loki Elsa and then Loki Werewolf. Okay.
Yep.
I just want to say that before we begin, I'm obviously I'm open to being dissuaded, but 3-5 Loki to me is the number one on our list. But yeah, that's
So the
I'll
Elsa
explain.
list?
I feel like 3-5 Loki with any other 11 cards. Okay,
Yeah.
no, but I get your point. Yeah, probably the Elsa list. So I'll start with my point first, because if you look at it, like so I asked this at the start of our review, right? Because I was preparing for this part, which is I asked this at the start of our review, which is it's basically the question is the decks at when they were best in their time versus like the other decks that were like best of their time, correct? Like at their full power.
Mhm.
So just wanna make a compelling argument whereby if I play Zabu on 3 and I play Loki on 3, I grab your Zabu and play it on 4, your Zabu deck loses straight up. You just die.
So I don't know if
on the
that's
spot.
true because you're playing 3/2 on turn 4. They're playing like 10
3/5.
million power. No, on turn 4.
No, I mean
on turn 4,
correct.
you have to play a 2/2, right? Because there's Zabu discarded, and they're playing
Yes.
like whatever 2 4-drops.
No, but the thing is on turn 5, right? Your 4 cost cards that you got from them all cost 1. It's the same.
Yes. Oh god, they cost 1.
You do more of it than them.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
that's
because-
the number 1 deck. You
So-
sold. Yep. I don't know
I
what
just
else to say.
remember
Yeah.
the first few days of Loki being the craziest few days of Marvel Snap I've ever seen, and it was
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah,
was
that was mad.
insane.
That was mad, right? It was
Yeah.
so crazy.
I was on
Oh, and you also
vacation
get-
and I stopped going and doing stuff just so I could play.
This isn't even a fair conversation, right? If we're talking about facing them 1 versus 1, because if you played this against Zabu, you also have Mobius.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ew.
yeah.
Yeah.
If we're talking on base
and-
power
and-
level, I would still say Zabu to me is the most oppressive deck that's ever existed.
I don't know.
But this, I think, head to head would definitely beat Zabu. Yeah,
So, but even more
especially
than
for
that.
its time.
Well, but even more than that, right? Like this Loki not only had Loki, it had Elsa and Kitty.
Yeah.
Yeah, this deck's pretty gross.
Like and like
it's very gross. It's very gross.
and like it just randomly casually ran rogue just for fun. Like it didn't bother with Shang-Chi because like that might stop your nonsense.
Yeah.
All right. So
this
the
was,
thing
this
about
was the
Loki,
era of you can't play tech cards in your Loki deck because then your Loki opponent just steals your tech cards.
yeah, you gotta stop playing Devil Dino in the Loki deck. If not, you like lose to your mirror
So
Devil
like
Dinos.
this is
but-
totally number 1, right?
Okay, so the funny thing is like I'm not, and it's funny. I'm not even kidding. Like this is number 1, even if you change like 4 cards in this list. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, because the thing about Loki is that I mean, it's very fresh in our minds right now, but like just to refresh, which is Loki is very incentivized to play like tech cards that don't matter in certain matchups anyway. Like you can literally play a tech card for one specific matchup and be fine with it, because if it doesn't work in any other matchup, you just play Loki, right, and just swap it out. So you are very incentivized to play like tech cards. So like the Mobius, the Rogue, the Mirage, the Jeff, all these like cards, you could literally play any other card. No, not any other card, but like you could play other relevant cards and it would be about the same, you know?
So
Yeah,
I heard
to me it's number one.
I heard someone ask recently whether pre-nerf Elsa or Werewolf were better for Loki, and I don't think it's close. I think
Elsa.
it's Elsa.
Yeah, not close at all.
It's a 2-drop.
Oh yeah, no, they are. Yeah, Elsa
It's a
was
220, right? Like it's just
pre-nerf Elsa. Pre-nerf Elsa might be the most
Like I
like
think
as far as straight stats. I think pre-nerf Elsa is the best card will probably ever make. I don't think they'll ever
Yeah,
top
Spyro did the tweet, right? 214 with no effort. Like his
Yeah.
average was 214
that. Yeah,
worth of stats.
all right.
Yeah.
So any argument for number one?
I think it's number one. I think even when Zabu was around, there were other decks that people played other than Zabu. For the first week when this was around, I did not play anything else other than Loki's. It was just
Yeah,
all
That's
Loki.
true.
well, the difference
There's
was that
nothing
was a
else.
season pass card, though, right? And Zabu was a season pass
Zabu's
card, but
season
most of
pass.
the key 4-drops were hard to get.
One of the key 4-drops was hard to get. One.
Dark
Also,
Hawk
this
and
might be the deck-
Absorbing Man were
Yeah.
Absorbing Man
Series
wasn't
5.
important.
This, yeah, it was okay, I guess. Yeah, but this might be the archetype or deck in the game that has gone through the most like change in a couple of months and is still just there, right? Like
Yeah.
do you realize how many times the Loki deck has changed? It's changed so much. Like
Yeah,
it's changed from like the Queen Jack Coulson to the Elsa, and then it's changed from off the Elsa, off the Angela to like bounce, and then now we have Zabu in here 4 bounce again. It's like this deck has changed like 6 to 8 times in the span of 2 months, and it's still like top 2 easily every single time.
It's been nerfed a lot. Random
Yeah,
cards.
a lot.
Yeah.
But like they won't really nerf Loki for some reason.
I mean, they did.
I mean, they did.
sort of
They did. Yeah, they kind of
they
did.
did. I think it's
Like,
coming again.
They made it a little worse.
I mean, you can't say him costing 1 more energy is not a nerf. It's definitely a nerf.
Sure.
It's a big
compare
nerf.
that to Zabu's nerf, or
Okay,
Surfer's
fine.
nerf, or
Well, Zabu also
or
got made
Shuri's
cheaper.
nerf, or sure, but literally compare the nerf to Loki to the nerf to any of the other big cards, because like the other big cards we're talking about, let's like the other best cards in the history of the game, Elsa.
True.
Way
true.
worse. Surfer,
Oh,
way
they,
worse.
They murdered
Zabu,
Elsa. That's
great.
poor thing.
Well, the first time they nerfed Elsa, they didn't murder her. They just made her worse.
Yeah, if you put it that way, they were actually quite lenient
Yeah.
to Loki.
Like
huh?
every
You put it
other
that way.
major card, like every other major card got like slammed like incredibly, and Loki was like, okay, well, he still does the same thing and all the same decks work, but you have to work a little harder for it.
Okay, but we do have to. One more point we need to throw in here, like about Loki, is that as much as I believe, and I guess you guys believe as well, that it's like on the list, top of the list, right? It's not top of the list because of how simple it is to play. You
Mhm.
get what I'm trying to say? Like it's busted, but it's difficult busted. So
Yeah.
is there a reason to put it 1 tier lower? That's
No.
something that I'm thinking
no,
about.
okay. We're talking about the
think-
best of the best.
If you
You're
look at the
piloting all these
stats,
decks.
if
Yeah.
you look at the stats,
This is Lamby
like
playing
Loki
against
is not near like even probably 2 or 3 of the top decks, but that's because as they've nerfed the cards around him and Loki, like the deck has become more reliant on you actually knowing what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Like,
so I also think Loki Wolf is a significantly worse deck than Loki Elsa.
It
oh,
is
very much,
actually.
yeah,
Like,
very
even when
much
It's
worse.
a
Wolf was
copium
3-3.
version of it.
So like it's weaker to lockdown now, right? Like Loki Elsa
Yes.
didn't give a shit about lockdown, and Loki Wolf
Yeah.
definitely cares about lockdown.
yeah.
Yeah, Loki Wolf is actually the more difficult deck to play, but it's
Mhm.
not the more difficult deck because I purposefully wanted to play a more difficult deck. It's because like this is the better version post nerf,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it
They
just
killed
happens
Elsa.
to be more difficult.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, but like obviously, if I had the Elsa and like the pre-nerf Loki, no one would be even thinking of doing this bounce thing.
So Loki Wolf we should rank also then Where does Loki
Yes, we
Wolf go
definitely
on the
should.
list?
I think lower than Zabu, honestly.
I mean, definitely lower than Zabu. I think lower than like Bounce.
I
don't put that low.
In terms of like raw power, like yes, it would beat Bounce. But like in terms of raw power, I think Bounce is a better deck.
Early, but if I play Loki, I get a 4-8 iron, 4-0 iron.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Loki, it's so hard to like.
Loki
I think
is stupid. I don't know.
I was gonna say if
Yeah.
you're going on pure like this is the tier list, we're gonna play these decks against each other. I think these should be 1 and 2. If that's what
I
we're
don't
ranking.
think so.
If we're ranking on pure power level, then I think you could make an argument for Loki Elsa being 1. I don't think you can make an argument for Werewolf Loki being.
So I think Loki's.
high.
I think in pure power, Zabu beats the living crap out of
But-
Loki Wolf and beats Loki Wolf head to head.
I
Yeah.
do think it
Double lockdown.
Loki
is
Wolf
just a
loses
nightmare.
the head-to-head also, honestly.
Yeah, I think power level 1. Yeah, like
All right.
the
so,
thing that Werewolf would not like at all is Spider-Man absorbing man shenanigans. so-
Yeah.
so question:
That's so bad for this deck. Yeah.
Loki Wolf or Thanos Jaw?
Oh, good question.
Oh, definitely Thanos Jaw. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
I
close.
lean Thanos Jaw.
Definitely.
Okay, I also actually lean Thanos Jaw. All right.
I'll agree, but like I don't know. Definitely, it's pretty close, isn't it?
I think it's close.
I
think it's
can
close.
see it being close. It's hard. Like,
If you realize the only difference is Elsa and the 3-5 Loki, right? But that makes the world of difference if you think of the curve and everything.
So
Yeah.
okay, so then we're putting Loki above Bounce. So Loki Wolf above Bounce, so it's number 4. So Loki is number 1 and number 4 on the list.
1 and 4.
All right.
I'm fine with that. I think that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But I would again say I think the saddest thing about doing this list as we sit here is that I think if we actually played a tournament with these decks in these forms, I think these 2 decks would be favored to be the finish first and second.
I agree.
really do.
I think Sabu is right there with him.
We should
The
do.
problem
like
is that
prenup
Loki
Zabu.
can just do whatever your deck's doing enough of the time better than you that
So Loki on
just
4
having
is
Loki
enough.
in the card.
I think.
Okay,
Loki
wait.
on
Actually,
4
I
is
think
enough
Glazer
worse
is right
than
here.
Loki
The
on
more I
3.
think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Loki on 4 versus full power Zabu is
Yeah.
very different from Loki on 3. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very different. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point. Fair enough.
that's a good. I think Glazer made a right point there. Because like my whole pitch was that you Loki on 3, you Zabu lay their Zabu on
Mhm.
4, then all your 4 cost 1. You play everything on 5, but you can't do that if you Loki on 4, right? So
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess it's first and third place then if you hit to hit them.
This is silly.
Future podcast idea: take these standings and rankings, and then create a tournament, and then figure
Oh,
out
that's true.
one-on-one.
If-
So it'd be fun.
that'd be
If
fun.
we could,
No. Just
just
talk
like,
about the
play it.
matchups.
Just like
theoretically.
ranking things.
And then we make
yeah.
then we need to go to 16. Do you have the whole list, Yeti?
Yeah, I have the whole list.
You told him to take them
We
all.
could do
Nice.
bracketology. Like,
That would
all
be
right,
fun.
we're going to reconvene at some point relatively soon and do bracketology with this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could when you're listening back through it. I'm sure we can figure out what
Oh,
the
yeah.
last 6
Some
were.
of the decks on this list are just like so far gone, right? Like you look at the Black Bolt stature, and then you look at all these other decks, you're just like, oh my gosh.
I can't believe these were
Just
once the
don't be
best
here.
decks in the game. Yeah,
I mean, but
Yeah.
but except for the Broodme deck, those were our favorite
Yeah.
metas.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
like
even
there is
I would
something
say
to
even
say
this
for
is
it.
one of my favorite
The
metas
Broodme
too.
meta
Yeah.
wasn't terrible
'Cause you
other
keep
than the
winning.
Broodme deck.
That's fair. It was just that deck was really annoying.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, the Brood deck was super annoying for me.
So Yeti, could you
Agreed.
read us the top 10, starting with 10 and ending at Loki?
All right, so we got Deathwave at 10, W Thanos.
Wait, no, we
at
don't.
9. Yeah, we
No, we don't.
Wait.
You.
Oh, you're right.
We got Leech Leader at 10.
yep.
I didn't bump those off.
All right, I'll do
I was
it.
going from
since
12.
you-
Leech,
All right.
no. Leech Leader, and then Evo Lockjaw, Thanos
There you go.
Valhalla, Surfer, Shuri, Bounce, Loki Werewolf, Thanos Jaw, Zabu, and Loki Elsa.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I was keeping the whole list.
So what I've learned from this is that Black Swan is going to be insanely broken.
Or the 0, make the 1 cost
Yeah,
cards
make the 1
0
cost cards
thing.
cost 0.
Yeah, Black Swan is, I hope, not going to actually ever release in that state. That card's
Yeah.
stupid.
That's like
Please
What's,
no.
what's the text and stats again for the card?
2/3
It's a 2/3.
on review. Next turn, your 1 cost cards cost 0.
Oh, that's just wrong. That's just wrong.
But
Yeah, no, that's not. Please no.
like what I've learned from this is that is going to be the best card in the game.
It will be. If it releases like that, that will be easily the best card.
Well, because we have to assume they're going to nerf Loki at some point, right?
Who knows? They seem to love Loki.
You play that card on. I was just thinking of the Thanos iterations. Like you go like, wow, you go like I don't know,
Thanos Lockjaw
Time
back.
Stone on 3, Time Stone plus Black Swan on 3. Then you offload Prof or whatever and stones on 4. Like
Oh,
it's crazy. Then you draw a new hand. Then you play a 5, and then it's crazy.
Oh yeah, you play Werewolf on 4, and then you
Yeah.
play that and a couple ones on 5.
yeah. Spiral sold me on it in Thanos. I was just thinking about how broken it would be in any iteration of Bounce.
In Bounce as well, right?
Werewolf
Yeah,
Like
Bounce.
Bounce
it's like
is
it's the second.
insane.
It's actually not even a. It's like a second beast actually,
Yeah.
and it complements beast as well.
It's like almost a
actually,
better
you're right,
beast
you're
because
right,
you don't
insane.
have to play it like on a curve. Like you can play it on turn 5, and then just whatever cards you've drawn since still get discounted.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
the
crazy.
card's nuts. I hope to God that doesn't actually release that way.
It's all right. So
Yeah.
luckily, there are no insane power scaling cards coming on the horizon. Although this does sort of explain why Blob is so good, because power scaling is like the second strongest thing you can do in the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just like good stats win, right?
Yeah.
Although we should look. Hang on. How often does Shang-Chi show up on this list?
Not that often.
Not that
Let's
often,
see.
right?
Not that often.
In
Not
the
that
in
often.
the move deck.
Well, I don't know. The top 3 decks all have it, right?
It's not in the
I
Loki deck.
said,
Actually, true. Actually, it's quite often. Actually, quite often. The more I
Yeah,
think about
no,
it, It's
I
actually
was
quite
wrong.
often.
Single Actus. It's in the bounce.
Yeah, it's quite often actually.
It's in the
it's in
stats.
it's in Zabu.
both
it's in-
both of the earlier
It's in
Thanos.
Thanos Lockjaw.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's everywhere. Shang-Chi
Yeah.
is
Okay.
just a universal necessity.
Yeah.
Well, power
Good
scaling,
card.
right? It's Shang-Chi is
Yeah.
in its own way power scaling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's descaling.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. That is
Alright.
it for our list. We are now on to our variant of the week, and we picked our favorite variant for what we thought the most broken card was ever. Who's got this first Zabu? And I didn't bother pulling old art. That's too much work. But
That
who's
is mine.
you are?
I think that
tell us-
Zabu comes out in February. The Kai.
It does.
Kylun
Nice.
bundle.
That
Yeah,
one is nice.
I'm a big fan of his. I actually have a signed print of his right behind my computer. But I
Nice.
really like that. I do think Loki on release is probably more broken, and I would have picked the Venomized Loki as my favorite variant, but I couldn't pass this one up. So
All right. Let's talk more about Zabu. Peaceful.
Yep, this is my Savage Land. I know everybody's got this one. It came in the season pass, but I don't care. I love this variant. My other favorite is the Dan
Nice.
Hip. I actually had my favorite split on the Dan Hip one, but I do love the Sabu. I'm a big Savage Land fan.
All right.
Mm.
Lamby, tell us about your favorite Loki.
Yeah, so I think almost all the Loki variants. I bought them really quickly. Like I like this card a lot. This art in particular. Okay, so I've been a huge fan of for the longest time of like more mystifying, serious looking art, and this is both serious and mystifying. Right? He looks like he's like in a realm of like I don't know, of something, and then doing magic stuff. I just think like Justina's art style is like totally up my alley. And yeah, I mean Loki's to me the most busted card in the game, and this is my favorite art style. Before it's what Venomized Loki was quite close for me, but I prefer this one.
I picked the Hip Elsa Bloodstone. I think Loki is probably the most broken card in the game. It's a toss-up between Loki and Zabu even at this point to me. But I picked original Elsa as mine just because I didn't want to pick the same thing. And I think original Elsa is fairly comfortably the third most broken card in the history of Marvel Snap.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I picked the Hip one because I love Hip art. I did not like Hip art when I first started playing, and my son watches me play Marvel Snap sometimes, and he loves Dan Hip from Teen Titans Go, and now it's like a thing we bonded over, and Dan Hip is my favorite artist, and I think it's amazing.
That's cool.
All right.
You want to add like Dan Hip art is like slowly growing on me because I'm the same as you. I wasn't like the biggest Dan Hip fan ever when I started, but like his recent releases I really like you know the Leader of the Huge
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
Leader
that
is
one.
so good.
Yeah, so like I'm not the biggest fan of his style, but like his recent releases have all been quite up my alley.
Well, yeah, it's funny for me. Like, I think like 4 of my first 5 variants I got for free were all Dan Hip, and I was like, ugh, I hated them.
Mhm.
And now I think like I don't know. There's like 7 or 8 of my like favorite cards that my favorite variant is a
I
Dan
mean,
Hip.
the Mobius
Yeah, the Mobius is
with the little
fantastic.
alligator Loki, like, come on.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have the freaking jet ski Mobius, and I still use
Yep,
the Dan Hip
same.
Mobius.
I wish I didn't buy that bundle, but yet
Here we are.
here we are. All right, let's move into our final from this is almost certainly our longest episode ever. Our friend Savage Yeti, Savage Yeti YT on Twitter. Tell us about why our friend should subscribe to you.
Yeah, I do weekly bundle breakdowns for all the bundles that are coming out with the data mine data. So I do updated videos when they do get changed. I do deck videos, fun decks, meta decks, mostly from other creators. I'm actually doing a video on the Ronin deck that Lamby posted, I think earlier today.
Spoiler, me too.
It's been fun.
It's good.
So I've had a
It's
good time.
good.
So I'll be making a video on
Anyway.
that. Yeah, Marvel Snap stuff. Just check out my YouTube.
All right. You should follow Yeti. Yeti's channel works fundamentally as like a companion channel to mine fairly often. So if you're following me, you should just be following Yeti. Like a lot of the decks that I talk about, he's got gameplay for. A lot of the bundles where I'm like, that bundle's good. I'm literally just telling you what Yeti says. Like, his channel is incredible. You should 1,000% be subscribed to him. And he's like the nicest guy in the game. So, like, people think it's Drewberry, but they just don't know Yeti yet.
Thank you.
All right, Savage Yeti Gaming at YouTube. But next up, Lamby.
All right. So this time I remember my handle. You can find me on youtube.com/LambySeriesGaming. You can also find me on twitch.tv/LambySeriesTV. And if you want like my insights and my deck list and stuff, you can find me on x.com/LambySeriesGG. Thank you.
So, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, the hard sell. The hard sell,
I'm
right?
trying to figure out how to
sell.
hard sell you at this point. It's
No,
like,
I just realized I forgot about the hard sell part.
for
I'm likely the best player in the game.
I mean,
All right,
yeah,
that's
pretty
it.
much.
I was going to ask you.
Like,
All right, that's
Do you
it.
think that you are the
Mic
best
drop.
player in the game? Do you feel that? Like,
Uh,
I mean,
to be completely frank, there's always someone that is better than you. I mean, I think I'm great, all right, but like there's always someone that can be better than you, but I haven't found them yet.
so,
But there will be someone.
so like,
But there will be. I just haven't found it yet.
like the evidence
that.
is fairly overwhelming, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just like you can argue that someone else is better than Lamby, and like I mean like I guess I'd probably think Johnson is the second best right now, but that would be my pick of like people that actually play Snap, right? Like Moyen and so on, but like he doesn't play. But like there's no like evidence to claim that Johnson's better, or like I don't know who else is really really great. Swen is better. Right? Like, it's just, there's, like, you're just arguing to argue at that point. You're being like, I think they're better. Why? Because I think so. Like, all the evidence is pointing at Lamby, right? Like, just let it be.
I guess since we're on this hard sell point, let me just make one more point. That I think a lot of people don't realize why I'm very confidently saying things like I'm better or I'm best. I'm not, like, someone that never loses or never make mistakes. I actually make a lot of mistakes, by the way. A lot. But when it comes to winning, right, I think I know how to win harder than 99.99999% of players in Marvel Snap. And that is one thing that I don't think anyone can take away from me. I'm very good at knowing how to win
I mean,
in any situation. So I think that's one of my biggest traits.
I know my hard sell. The two very best games of Marvel Snap I've ever seen played were you. There's the one, and I don't even remember it well. There's the one where you came back against Den.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the one that you beat Johnson at the Congress. Because you had,
those are just some examples of knowing how to win.
yeah, but you had no
Simple as that.
business of winning either of those games. Like, none whatsoever. You, like, like, literally anyone else I know would have lost those matches in those games, in those times.
Yeah.
And that you just, like, that's my hard sell. Like, that, it's unbelievable. Also, like, it's so hard for me to imagine anyone who follows me not following you. There's 7 players in all of Marvel Snap that if they release a deck, a video happens immediately. And number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on that list, not to quote Sino, but who's quoting KRS-One, is Lamby, right? Like, it's just, there's no reason to not, like, follow his stuff. And a lot of, like, my favorite content that I've ever made is covering his stuff and being like, here's how you do that. Because even analyzing it and breaking it down, and I really realized this with Valhalla, but I didn't know it until Silky Smooth. When Silky Smooth came out and I was explaining it to people, I realized how many different, like, small tricks there were that you were building into things you did, and how many different, like, play lines there were, and, like, what you could do when, and how different things in the meta interplayed differently. And getting to explain that made me better at making the kind of content I like to make, which is, like, lecture-y explaining content. And, like, because I had to think about it that way. So the coolest thing, I was so proud of myself. You did the Ronin write-up, right? You did the Ronin video, and then you tweeted the write-up. I like to write up my turn-by-turn guide and my card replacements before I read your thing, and then I just, like, go over, like, I call them, like, Lamby notes, just your notes on the deck. And I had 90% of the notes. Like, I was like, oh, this isn't a Ronin deck, this is a Maximus deck. And then, like, I read the notes and I'm like, hey, it's a Maximus deck. It's like, oh, Spider-Ham could be anyone as long as it's something you don't care about killing a Killmonger. Hey, that's in the notes too. And I was just like, oh, shit, look at that. Like, I've explained it so much at this point that I, like I've gotten the concept. It's made me a better content creator. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Like, you always get me on here to do this as well, because, like, I enjoy it as well, you know.
Love having you on. All right. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. There you go. Mr. C.
It's me. So you can find me on twitch.tv/PeacefulSea. You can find me on YouTube at apparently PeacefulSea9294. I need to update that probably, don't I?
Why is it 9294?
I think it's just a random thing that YouTube
because there's other Peaceful Seas.
Yeah. We'll fix that at some point. I didn't even realize that was a thing. It shows you how technologically advanced I am. If you are not interested in learning how to be more technologically advanced, I have a pretty good channel for Snap stuff. That's my hard sell. No,
that's it.
I really enjoy doing deck guides. Basically, like, teaching content. That's my favorite thing to do. That's why I do the series with Lammy. If you're someone who likes to learn about decks before you play them, kind of get a feel for what you're getting into, get opinions on whether you should pick up new cards, that sort of thing, I'm a great channel to follow. If you like good vibes and that sort of thing, I feel like my Twitch streams are a really good place to be. We listen to a lot of cool music and have a lot of fun conversations. Talk about a lot of cool stuff. So. That's me.
I'm going to speak as an educator for a minute. I'm a teacher in real life. Not that this isn't real life, but you know what I mean. Like, my full-time job is teacher.
Yeah.
So, in terms of getting better at Marvel Snap, I mean this is no disrespect to the people who do it. Most of the content that's like, here's a deck, they talk about the deck for 2 minutes and they show you 5 games with it, is completely and utterly useless as far as getting better at Marvel Snap. It's nice. It's fun. It doesn't make you better in any way, shape, or form. The exception to that is Peaceful, because he always takes a teaching lens to it, where most people are just like, here's what I did. And Peaceful always explains why he's doing it, what his thought processes are. He makes it a replicable. Pretty sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but he makes it a replicable experience. Whereas a lot of those deck guide videos, which are wonderfully entertaining content, and I watch an awful lot of them, are not necessarily useful if your goal is improvement. Watching a stream is different. Watching, like, Lamby stream or Peaceful stream, you can 100% learn from, because the interactivity is there and they're talking through processes. But those YouTube videos that are like, this deck is great, here's the blah, like, as far as learning. And the reason I like Yeti's guides, and this is like, sorry, I know this is Peaceful section, but the reason I like Yeti's guides is because reasonably often our pieces work as companions. So you get the, like, turn by turn from me and then the in action from him. And if you're doing both of those, like, it grows you as a player. I think, like, watching content is fun. It should obviously be fun. But, like, if our goal is improvement, our goal in life should fundamentally always be being better at something. Then using your entertainment to get better is important. And I've never had 3 better guests for that than now.
Oh.
Thank you.
I appreciate that, man.
Also, I will say the Next Level series that these guys
it's
have,
so good.
It's really good. And there are things that, like, even the Tilt episode, I thought I knew a lot about because I used to play poker and all that stuff. But hearing things articulated from other people is actually really helpful. So for sure, go and listen to. I have to go back and listen to some episodes
Me
that I
too.
missed, but for sure, check that out.
Nice.
I need a refresher
Thanks,
on cube
guys.
management. I haven't played enough Serious Conquest in a while because honestly, since the school year started, I've been fairly casual. But like, I need to.
Oh, we need
go
to
back to
do another of that video soon. So that video is just the surface, super surface
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, well, we
What?
can. Yeah, let me actually put that on my notes. I meant to ask you about that,
Yeah.
but
Let's go.
thanks for the
It's
shout on that, guys.
look. It's probably like bluntly the best series in Snap, right? Like if your goal is improvement, there's nothing better out there.
Yeah. There is
Damn,
none.
that's a pretty high compliment.
It's true, right? Like
Thanks,
it's just
dude.
true. It's
I agree with Glazer actually. Like I've watched so much Snap content, but like what we do, like me and you, Peaceful, what we do is unique.
different. Mhm.
It's like it's very weird to say this about my own channel, right? But it's actually quite unique.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna.
agree. I mean, I love it. It's just one of those things. It's nice to hear other people agree. That's all.
I agree.
Appreciate you guys.
So I'm going to be arrogant in my own way now. I think I'm top tier at getting people to infinite, but not getting people beyond that level. What you guys do is so far above and beyond what I do. But I think I'm like top of the line. Like everyone who watches my videos, basically, as long as they like interact, hits infinite. And like that's not like a high bar for us, right? But for a lot of people, it's really, really hard. And like I get people there, and you get people to where it's just like infinite. What's infinite? That's easy, and that's so much better.
Yeah, if you guys, for those of you who watch my channel, if you guys watched and liked my poker
The
comparison
poker
to
videos
Marvel
were
Snap,
so good.
their
Mhm.
videos are the same thing except way more in depth.
Oh, I should
and
watch more of your
better.
stuff. I love watching like the poker reference stuff,
Mhm.
like
It's-
to card games and
Back
stuff.
when Marvel Snap came out, I did a few talking about pot odds and things and how to
Oh,
calculate
I
it.
have
Nice.
I have a really good idea for you.
Ooh.
We'll talk after this. All right. Let's wrap this up because we are approaching 3 hours. All right. So
Oh, yeah, wow.
please, Lamby episodes are always the longest. All right. So please remember to follow our 3 guests, Lamby, Peaceful, and Yeti. I have to quickly thank our Patreons. We've got Models, Pretty Chill, Fothor Newman, love Newman, follow him too while you're at it. Ink, No Flex, Mandatory Burnout, Matt Conduit, Josh Apodaca, Rob Silverman, Matt H., Rob Rivern, Abigail Gieslin, Direwolf, and our homie, Min.
Man,
I love
Min.
Min. Such
Yeah.
a good person. All right. That's it for this week. We'll see you next with another Snap Take. Thanks for the support. We appreciate you. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, you guys.
What do you